Welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy, and this is of particular note if you drive an electric vehicle. Speaking of Patreon, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So, a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Michael Kahn, Sarah Griffiths, Rob H, Ben White, Maximum Gravy, Austin Whitsitt, John Kays, Tommy Swagnett, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Mel B. Styles, Troy Shuker, Bo Snail, Maris, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Lost Cat FE, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Mike, Muted, Dick Earth Skeptic, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Liam Nedrick Jr., Abraham Mohammed, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, theflatearthchannel.com and David Wayne Foster. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
And I'm going to ask Nathan specifically. I want to know what's going on when somebody, well, I'm not even saying what's going on. But you know that hexa, what is that? Sulfur hexafluoride.
That's
right?
it.
That's what it's called. I made the same mistake I made yesterday. Right? When you take that, is it actually getting poured from a container above to a container below?
You can do that. If you've got a higher concentration and a greater density, or higher pressure of the gas, prior to it dispersing, it can force out the gas that's there in a downward vector. Now, that doesn't mean that the gas, when in a high concentration, can't displace the air around it. In the same way, if you open a helium valve, have you ever had a canister of helium? Open the valve, because it's at high pressure, it will, I assure you, force the air out of the way. Now, if you're pointing that valve downwards, you're going to tell me that helium go down, go boom, boom, because it's forcing its way down because it's in a different state, i.e. a higher pressure than the air around it? No. You're forcing it into doing that. Well, that's a parlour trick. Now, overall, the gas itself will always, without exception, expand to fill the volume with time. That's entropy. So in spite of forced disequilibrium and parlour tricks, the natural effect, regardless, is that it will disperse in all cases, in all vectors. And it's doing it the moment you take the lid off. Ergo, at some stage, you could say one particle, the moment you open the lid, sulfur hexafluoride, is churned up by the gas which tries to get in between the gaps. Yeah? Now there's more gaps between the air, so the sulfur hexafluoride makes its way between the gaps slowly. Right? As that's happening, sulfur hexafluoride's going up. That's the end of the argument. Because you can't just say, well, that's the exception to the rule, when at the end of the process it's going to be everywhere. So it's not the exception to the rule. It's the other way around. The exception to the rule is the forced disequilibrium induced by a man. The rule is that gas will disperse to fill a volume.
Yeah, and the temperature controls that effect as well, not just the pressure.
Hello.
You got to have all the if you have a higher concentration, I guess is the right word, of gas, of something like sulfur hexafluoride, I bet you that tank, when you touch it, will feel cold to the touch because it's at a lower temperature. That's why it's sitting in the tank. But it's also, changing the temperature of that tank with the collisions that it's having with it.
So, would it be accurate to say that for that moment of it being poured, would it be accurate to say what Rumpus said a long time ago, that it's mostly going down
No.
for that moment?
For that moment.
No, that's wrong.
Well, yeah, that's the point. For that moment, you can force it to do so. Yes, you can. Now, if you take that isolated moment in time, let's take it to something that's actually natural, just because it's easier. So your volcano example that came up, not you, but you know what I mean. That example has people saying, right, you look at the top of the volcano, and you've got carbon dioxide literally coming down to reach the people at the bottom. Therefore, gas go down, go boom, boom. Right? That's looking at a snapshot in time and ignoring what's actually taken place beforehand. Before that happened, it forced the gas out of the way on its way up, and then was in high concentration prior to dispersing on its journey up. So before it got there and after it got there, and to get there in the first place, it went up. So if you take that one isolated part of that process and say, look, in this tiny window, it's going down. You go, okay. What's actually happening is it's trying to displace the air around it, and it's on its way to doing so, and as a result, you can describe for a small period it displacing it downwards, because it hasn't got enough gaps in a short enough period of time to immediately diffuse through what is essentially already filled with stuff. Air is stuff. So it's not like you're just filling a vacuum, it's going to just go psh and immediately fill it equally. And that's, you know, like with the example with the bromine, that's when it's filling a vacuum. Well, it's not filling a vacuum, it's got stuff in the way. So imagine a crowd of people trying to force through another crowd of people, yeah, versus a crowd of people trying to get into an empty field. Well, if there's already a load of people there, that impedes them moving. And likewise, the air that's already around us now, creating 14.7 psi at sea level, that's in the way. When it forces it out of the way in high concentration, it then decreases in concentration as it moves through the gaps in the air over time. That effect, that description, that process is entropy. Now, you can ignore all of the things surrounding it and say in isolation it goes down, and the exception to the rule is that it goes up. That's bollocks.
All right.
Hope that helps. Does it? Probably not.
Well, I just wanted
Well,
to hear what you said. That's all. I'm not. How do I put it? Oh, how do I put it?
Well,
I just want to
it's
see
more
how
of a
everybody
question
else
of
sees
why
it,
does
right?
warm
That's
air
what I was
rise?
saying.
Hold on, John. You can see he's fishing for the words.
I was just trying to say, I just wanted to see how you guys see it, right? I don't want to. How do I put it? I just asked simple questions and I got my answers, and that's it. Just leave it at that, I guess, for now.
Yeah, but that's not how we see it. That's the way it is.
Hello.
Hey,
Well,
Owen.
this is more of a question of why does warm air rise and cold air sink, or why does high pressure go to low pressure?
Yeah, when it boils down to the brass
That's
tacks
what
of
we're
it,
seeing.
you're asking for the cause of entropy.
And then, and when you ask that, then you assert a vector to explain it with a force, and that's just, you're using the wrong convention. Just doesn't work that way.
Got the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable. Yeah. As long as you know that the only reason they're going to start bringing up, oh, well, when the sun introduces some energy into the gas particles, if you know that they're going to be asserting gas go down, go boom, boom, whatever they say is going to be a justification for their assumption, incorrectly, that gas isn't moving in all vectors, but actually takes a downward vector in all cases, even when going up. Now, it doesn't matter if you point out to these people that want
That's
to justify a downward bias, that they're going up and can't have a downward vector if they're going up. There are no gases made in the sky, so no gases are naturally coming down. That's not what's happening. Ever. So when it comes to natural phenomena, is there a natural phenomena that gas goes down? No, there isn't. There is no natural phenomena that gas go down, go boom, boom.
And if you're going to put in your natural phenomenon, why does high pressure go to low pressure? Or why does hot go to cold? Like, good luck figuring that out.
Exactly, yeah. Nobel Prize waiting for the man who figures out the cause of entropy. Not in a kind of Nobel Prize for you getting flat earth proof kind of Nobel Prize. I mean, genuinely, that's what it would result in. Because it'd be monumental. I doubt it'll ever happen. No one's going to figure out the cause of entropy because you're asking for the start of it all, which leads you to the ontological primitives. So, establishing the cause of entropy is futile, in my opinion.
And then
Well, wouldn't you have to manipulate entropy?
This conversation about gas is supposed to go down, go boom boom, whatever, is secondary because they're trying to say that gas doesn't need a container because it won't fill the volume because it doesn't go everywhere at that time.
Yeah, Arwin's figured out the problem immediately. Sorry to almost ignore you, I did listen. But do you want to repeat what you just said, Arwin? Because Arwin's got to the nub of the cause of the problem in terms of establishing it scientifically. Do you want to ask your question again, Arwin? Then we'll start the live show in a couple of minutes.
Yeah, so if you actually want to try to prove the cause of entropy, that would mean in a scientific setup that you'd have to vary manipulate it. So if that would be possible at some stage, that would have like devastating consequences. Because that would mean you could literally just effectively freeze time. Even though time is a concept, like that would be so impactful that everything would change, right?
Well,
because
the arrow of
entropy
time
is
is
like
what
the
they
one
call
constant thing.
The arrow of time is what they would call entropy, right? And yeah, you'd have to freeze time. But if you try and formulate it into a hypothesis, and you're saying that hot flowing to cold is the phenomena, right? Well, then you're going to have in the formulation somewhere, if whatever you're varying, then hot will not flow to cold. You're like, what? No, that will always happen. It's the law of nature. So,
right.
What are you going to do in terms of your setup to vary A to cause the phenomena? You know,
like without inserting a lot of things to counteract the entropy effect, right? Because then you would just be counteracting the entropy. No, you have to somehow make the entropy stop or reverse or something. Well, how are you going to do that?
Exactly. It's just it seems silly to ask this question, but you know, people have sidestepped the question and then assigned a downward vector and then decided to justify the downward vector and ask questions about why it wouldn't be occurring when begging the question, and you're like, I thought we'd moved past all this kind of crap. Why are we justifying a down when it's relative? I don't get it. It just beggars belief, if you ask me.
The doctrine.
Maybe.
You know, you could vary and manipulate entropy if you were the creator, because that's what he did to create. So
exactly. That's exactly what I said. It comes back to the ontological primitives. That's precisely it. That's exactly right. Once you rewind it back to quote unquote the beginning, well, what are you left with? Well, you're left with the ontological primitives. So you're going to start answering those questions and figuring out that, well, you've got either nature creating all of this, that's the start of it all, or intelligent design. Those are your two options. Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, how dare you, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy, and this is of particular note if you drive an electric vehicle. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching. Then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected. And if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Arwin, 10th Man, Righteous Force, Neil, Refracted Curvature, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Thank you.
Hey, good morning.
Yo. Arwin's ducked. He's gone the shop.
All right. I did wonder why I've miscounted the number of people in the panel, but there we go. That's all good.
Just a quick question before we get into housekeeping. Are Octopus Energy still running? I see there's a lot of energy suppliers that are going under at the minute. Have you noticed?
Yes, they are. They are definitely still going. My wife works for Octopus Energy. They're subsidised or funded in some manner by Tesla. Boo. Nevertheless, they're the ones inheriting all of these electricity companies that are going under. They're the ones actually getting all of their customers. so I'm reasonably confident to keep plugging them and getting the 50 quid that I get when people
sound like
subscribe.
a conspiracy by any chance, does it?
Maybe. I don't know. There's electric cars coming, and Octopus Energy are all for electric car tariffs. Oh, not all four, just that's one of the major things they focus on. Anyway, you can get 50 quid if you click the link below and swap to Octopus Energy, and they're not going under, so that's good news for you. Anyway, not that it makes any difference. It's all covered by government. No one's going to lose their electricity when Bulb or whoever it is that recently went under. This is totally not on topic, Anthony.
I was just curious. I noticed that there was about 10 that have gone in the last month, so I was just wondering.
Fair enough.
Anyway.
No, certainly not Octopus Energy. Anyway, aside from Bulb going under and various other electricity companies, my wife's literally just strolled in. Everyone's talking about electricity companies going under and asking if Octopus Energy is about to disappear. Says no. Computer says no.
Computer says no.
Exactly. Right. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
Only in the maths. That is the answer. Only in the maths.
That's correct. One of the few honest statements given to us by the Rumpus. Geometric Earth curve horizon. Yeah, that only exists in the maths.
That's not evidence.
No,
That
but
is
it's
true. But that is the only evidence they've got, even though that's not really evidence. Correct.
well, it's not evidence. It's a tool used to reify the horizon into a physical geometric sphere edge, obstructing things in the distance. It's a tool for reification.
Yeah, do you remember when they used to think that the horizon was the leading edge of a sphere based on Galileo's boat's observation with his telescope? They used to actually think that. They don't think that anymore. They realise that it's an optical phenomena. It's not actual at all.
Anthony's obviously not been around recently, so no, let's not pigeonhole they. Globe Earth believers, and for the very, very select few people in the audience that are just normal people, I'm going to say it's a 0.1%, right? So at the moment, probably none. Anyway, on the re-up, if you're watching this, I'm nearly there. If you're watching this as a normie, you do believe that the horizon is the edge of the Earth, blocking things in the distance, called Earth curve. That's what you believe and is part of your rhetoric. That's why you believe it as a normie. That's a globe-believing normie. Now, what Anthony has just stated is They, that would be anti-flat earthers, do not believe that the horizon is the leading edge of the sphere, even though it's in their Earth curve maths as the leading edge of the sphere. That's because we've debunked it. So the people who actually debate with us, they would be anti-flat earthers, cannot abide by the notion that the Earth curve maths suggests, and you normie globe believers think is true. That's that the Earth curve edge is represented by the horizon, blocking things in the distance, Galileo's boat being Antony's example. Our opponents, anti-flat earthers, do not think that the horizon is Earth curve. Nobody thinks the horizon's the geometric horizon, right? According to our anti-flat Earth compadres.
And you wouldn't expect to see it, apparently.
Yeah, you wouldn't expect to see it. Nobody claims the horizon is Earth curve, in fact.
Well,
Let me just give a correction on Nathan's behalf, right? He actually said then, and I'm sure he misspoke. He said that there's only 1% of the audience that were normals. There's 99% of the audience are normal people, Nathan, right? There's nothing abnormal about thinking that the Earth's not a sphere. So for those in the audience that realize that the horizon is the optical phenomena that we perceive, and we were told that boats go over, if you realize that's not the case, it doesn't make you abnormal. You're still normal. Don't worry about it.
I didn't say abnormal or not normal, and I didn't use the word normal. I said normie. Now, by normie, that's QE's equivalent of Joe Coffey and Betty Breadmaker. That's normie.
I thought you said normal. Apologies.
Normie.
I thought you said normal with an L at the end.
No. If you're a normie globe believer, that's just Joe Public. If you're Joe Public, you believe the horizon's Earth curve. If you're in opposition to us, because we've debunked that horse shite, then you can't claim the horizon's Earth curve, so you weasel your way around it and tell us Black Swan's been debunked and things like that.
What I was going to say, though, is once you invalidate the Earth curve mass by saying it's refracted, all that's left is the flat measurement that we have, the plane that geodesic surveyors measure. Without the tangent, all you have is the plane.
That's right. The measurements themselves derived from the Earth curve maths need to be an assertion of the physical geometry claimed by the maths. The moment you say the horizon itself, that's the physical geometry you're trying to prove, is refracted, then you're no longer proving physical geometry to an Earth curve edge horizon. That's the essence of the Black Swan debunking. You haven't got an Earth curve edge horizon. The horizon is not Earth curve. We only have one horizon. And the horizon, in the begging the question, proof of nothing, perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator, is geometric. It's just not the horizon we see. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Yeah, it's just those two rotating points in the sky, isn't it, that nobody in the south observes when viewing south. They all think that they're looking south, but they're not actually looking south. So what they do is they get the compass and they make corrections to what the compass is telling us, and then they tell us that that's the bottom of a ball. But in actual fact, what they're doing is looking in different directions, and they're relying on a compass adjustment for a just so story to explain why they're not looking in south directions when it's necessary on a ball. That's the only evidence they've got.
Yeah, that won't give you an axis.
No, it gives you a rotation point in the sky that you can believe is connected to an axis, though.
If you reify the position to an antipodal one when you travel south.
Yeah, you can just imagine that like everybody in England is underneath your feet when they're not actually underneath your feet at all, but you can imagine it as an axis, right?
You can, if you want to. You can do all sorts of things. Any evidence that...
I just see three rotation points, right? They're all of the same rotation point, but they're all in different directions. In other words, disproving the claim that we're on a ball. Lovely just so story to make it back into a ball. That's what I see it as.
Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
No evidence. But those were all trick questions anyway. Those are all little tricks that they used to have.
They've got to make two assumptions, haven't they? They've got to make two assumptions for the distance to the sun. They've got to assume that we're on a sphere, and they've got to assume that Venus is a similar size to Earth, so that they can scale out the solar system accordingly.
3, if you account for Kepler and say that that's a further assumption, saying his orbital mechanics are correct.
Well, the orbital mechanics are correct as a scale, but not as a quantity. Well, not necessarily true. That's just one perspective that you can view the rotate or the cyclical nature of the sky events, the celestial events. You can interpret them that way, but that doesn't make it the only way. There are other ways to interpret that, like, for instance, the apparent retrograde motion of Mercury, for example. You can perceive that as, like the heliocentric model says, but you can also perceive it as a function of elevation change or altitude change. So it doesn't necessarily mean it is retrograde motion, hence why they call it apparent retrograde motion. And we should never drop that word apparent off the beginning of that label. We should call it apparent retrograde motion because that's what it is. It's apparent retrograde motion. That doesn't mean it really is retrograde motion, but you don't necessarily have to work at the really is level.
Yeah, it's moving incrementally. You're not actually seeing any relative motion to the other stars. It's just the following day it's in a different position that wouldn't match with the pattern. So apparent being, you can see it moving with respect to the other stars the following day, but you're not actually seeing it have a transition.
Apparent is the key word, though. It's like the apparent horizon and the optical horizon that we point out is not the actual horizon that boats go over. It's just like that.
But it's the motion that's apparent because you don't see any motion. There's no transition. There's no analog transition from one point to the next. It's just the following day it is in a different position and wouldn't follow the same pattern in orbital mechanics. Therefore, apparent retrograde motion.
All in the maths.
Any evidence of gravity? Scientific evidence?
Yes. Can we come back to that? Let me dig it out. I want to share this again because it's really important that we're aware of it on our side. Let's come back. Let's move on and let me come back to it in a minute.
Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics? Keen. You're all keen. Super keen.
We're giving the globe heads a chance to answer.
I don't think there are any globeheads. Anybody in Discord a globehead?
They're not going to admit it, are they, Nathan? One, it's embarrassing, and two, it's because they're going to get targeted and victimized, and then they're going to have to play the victim card. Nobody likes playing the victim card, not even globies.
Fair enough. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
That's just done by P waves and S waves and assuming that it can't possibly be done with any other interpretation other than being on a globe.
What a silly question, anyway. You realize
No,
how
it's a
silly
brilliant-
you sound when you say it?
It's a brilliant question because it epitomizes how silly their answer is to that question. Where is the evidence for the molten iron core, right? We just see it in high school drawings, segments of the Earth chopped out and P waves and S waves as the rebuttal.
Any evidence you can have a curved adjacent whilst acquiring an elevation angle?
Apparently, Ruhif is trying to explain to me how apparently we don't understand how celestial navigation works with regards to navigation and sextants. And I'm trying to point out to him that we actually do. It's you guys that don't. And he's gone all very quiet on us at the moment. So shout out to Rufy for not understanding how celestial navigation works on a sextant, because we do understand it. We're just waiting for you guys to realize that you don't understand half of it, and you need to acknowledge that we do.
Retracted.
Yeah.
Well, you would need two straight lines to make a angle, right?
Yeah, argument dies there.
Yeah.
Do you hear that, Rufy? So the argument dies.
Two straight lines, Rufy, not one of them that's subjected to a 7/6R and creating a curve, right? because that is all of your lines in your model. All of your lines are based on 7/6R refraction, and they're applying spherical geometry, right? Well, in spherical geometry, you haven't got any straight lines, but you need straight lines for an angle, Rufy. You need that.
So do you want to ask him the following housekeeping question, which is now a permanent addition? Yeah? Any evidence you can have a curved adjacent whilst acquiring an elevation angle?
Rufy needs to go back to his books. Spherical geometry doesn't permit straight lines, Rufy. So you can't have any angles in spherical geometry, which is what you guys apply. And I just want to point out as well on our side that we need to point out to them that if they're going to have a straight line, they can't have 7/6R. If they have a curved line because of 7/6R, they can't have sextants. So either way, they're knackered, right? Just depends which way they want to die. But they can't have it both ways because it's a direct contradiction in terms. If you put your eye to the sextant and you look out to the horizon, you marry it up to whatever, or even a star or anything that's around that area that you're measuring the angle to, the moment you have an optical line of sight on their model, it's a curve because they always tell us about that 7/6. Well, the minute you do that, then you haven't got an angle anymore, right? So the knackered both ways. It's either a curve and they lose sextants, or it's a straight line. They can keep sextants, but they then lose standard refraction over 7/6R.
You're correct. And it's not just those two ways. They're screwed 6 ways from Sunday between the black swan and the sextant.
It's glorious.
Yeah, you're saying, but what you're putting out is the link to the black swan. So they say, oh, well, I look at the horizon and I've got a straight line to it. And no, you haven't. You've spent 23 months telling us it's refracted. So bent line. So never a straight line ever. That's what you told us as the response to the black swan. So no, where are you getting a straight line from, black swan?
So the minute they claim straight line, remind them that they've just relinquished their 7/6R because they need to relinquish 7/6R to get the straight. Well, that means they don't have refraction, right? They can't bring things back from the curve. That means
Stop a second. The statement you've just made, they need that to be flat in order to measure the angle, Anthony. So, yeah, it's all well and good arguing about after the fact 7/6R that they've relinquished. No. When you say relinquish 7/6R to look at the horizon and make an angle measurement, they're going to need a flat plane for that. That's why this is such a beautiful proof. Before they do anything, they absolutely must have a flat plane to make an angle measurement. There are no exceptions. They're going to need a flat plane for this. So they've got to get around the awkward detail of requiring a flat plane to make an angle to then move that angle to the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth. So they need a flat plane first. Oh dear. So you can't even beg the question to get around it. Well, we all know it's a sphere. Oh, really? So why would it be the case that you need a flat plane to measure the angle to then assume it's a sphere when it doesn't work transposing it back onto the sphere if you even did the triangulation? Your circles don't look like circles on a globe anymore. They look like teardrops. So it's definitely not needed to move the angle that you've measured on the surface with a flat plane to the centre after you've measured the angle on a flat plane, Mr. Globe Believer, because you're going to just measure an angle and you need a flat plane to do so.
Just want to point out that what Nathan's doing there is contrasting for what I'm doing is I'm allowing them to beg the question. So I'm then killing them after they've begged the question. But Nathan's saying, no. You're not begging the question in the first place.
No, I'm not. No, you're wrong. Let me try that one more time. So you're out on you're a globe believer on a boat with me and I'm a flat earther, Anthony. We both hold our sextant. And I look at you and I go, what are you going to do with your sextant, Mr. Globe Believer? And you go, I'm going to measure an angle. Right? So we've not done anything yet. We're just on the boat. We haven't done a single thing. We're just going to look at a star in the sky, measure it with respect to the horizon or the sun or whatever celestial object we're using. That's all we're going to do. But at that point, before we've done anything, Anthony, you're a glober holding a sextant and I'm a flat earther holding a sextant. I just take my measurement because my measurement's of an angle. And I ask you again, Anthony, you're saying, no, Nathan doesn't like me to beg the question first. Well, we're not doing it. We haven't done anything yet. We're just holding a sextant. You've taken it out of the box. You haven't done a single thing. So what are you going to do with your sextant there, Mr. Globe Believer? How are you going to measure an angle precisely? Do you want to explain that to me, Anthony? Because you're not begging the question at this stage. You're measuring an angle on a flat Earth. There's no begging the question at this stage. You've got to assume it's flat first.
Yeah, you flat earthers think that we need to actually have a line of sight to the horizon. And even if it's an optical line of sight, you can argue about that all day. But all I'm doing is setting my angle from a horizontal position.
Stop. Setting your what now? Angle?
My angle.
No. Where'd you get that? Where'd you get an angle on a curved surface?
From my set horizontal.
What set horizontal?
So I take my zenith, my vertical line, I get 90 degrees to it to set my horizontal, and from that horizontal, wherever it happens to be pointing, I'm going to measure my line from that horizontal.
No. From your position in every direction, according to you, on a sphere, the Earth's falling away 8 inches per mile squared in all directions. So you're going to draw a line to what? The middle of outer space?
No,
from your 90 degree
me,
zenith?
I didn't say that. I didn't say that. You're straw manning me. Listen to what I say. I'm going to measure my angle from my forced horizontal, regardless of what it's pointing to.
But you're measuring it to the GP of a star below the position that you draw a line out to at your horizontal. Well, the ground position on a sphere has curved away from you. So measuring an angle to what? The position of the star, because that's definitely not what you're doing, and that's what you're going to be doing with the sextant.
I'm not referencing the ground. I'm referencing a horizontal line that I've created by taking it from vertical.
Yeah. For what? Yes, we know you need a horizontal. That would be a flat Earth, by the way. But you're also measuring a celestial item, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah. And you're measuring what of that celestial item, Anthony?
I'm measuring the angle to the forced horizontal.
There we go. There it is again. So you're measuring an angle to its horizontal position in space or on the ground. Its ground position. Which one?
No, not in any position. It's just the horizontal.
No, it's its ground position. No, that's wrong. It's ground position that you'll be measuring, Mr. Globe.
No. That's what you're saying. I'm measuring. I'm not measuring that.
Well, that's what you do. No, we're holding sextants doing triangulation. That is what you actually do. You measure ground position.
No, I'm just setting horizontal from 90 degrees from vertical. That's what I'm setting. You're ascribing that to the Earth.
How'd you get vertical?
That's what you're measuring. You're measuring the star to get its GP, ground position below it. The zenith of the star is what you're trying.
I'm getting my angle from my set horizontal that you're ascribing to the Earth.
That's what you're doing. You're trying to navigate the Earth with a sextant, Anthony.
All I'm doing is measuring my angle from horizontal, 90 degrees from vertical. That's it.
And utilising the position of the angle to the star you've measured for its ground position.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what
you're for the Earth.
Yeah, ground position.
Hear what Anthony's doing? Anthony's saying you could use a sextant on a globe, you just couldn't find your way with it.
Yeah, if you're finding the position to 90 degrees from your zenith, then the position that's called ground position for the star, that's the position below the star that you're measuring, isn't on the ground anymore because the ground's fallen away from you, Anthony.
Yeah, so if I'm at the top of Blackpool Tower...
Do you mean yeah? Yeah, that's the end of the argument.
Not really. If I'm on the top of Blackpool Tower, 500 feet in the air, and I set my sextant and I get my vertical and I set my horizontal from 500 feet high, and I then measure the angle to Polaris, I've still got an angle from my set horizontal, even though I'm up a tower.
How did you do that?
I've just told you I got my vertical.
No, you said I get my vertical. What do you mean you get your vertical? How'd you get it?
I get a plumb bob. Well, you use the tower.
You use a plumb bob on the ocean.
No, he said he's at Blackpool Tower. So if you've used a plumb bob if you've used a plumb bob to establish a horizontal, i.e. 90 degrees to your zenith with your plumb bob, that's what you're asserting, then there's no dip correction. You're just establishing horizontal and still taking an angle measurement from that horizontal to the star.
But then what I'll do is, because I've got my horizontal, I'll then look at the horizon, I'll measure the dip correction that I need to make.
No, stop. I've just said you don't need to do that. If you're doing it with a plumb bob, I'll say it again, you didn't listen. Accuse me of not listening. You don't need to do that correction because you're taking horizontal to the ground position, which will be parallel on a flat plane. No dip needed.
Yeah, but I'm a ball earther, right? And you're asking me how do I get my angle, and now you're talking about dip. So what I'm going to do?
I'm not. You are. You said dip.
Let me finish. I'm going to observe that it's quite a misty day today. I've not got brilliant visibility, and I know that that's going to give me a bigger dip angle, right? So I'm going to measure that dip angle and then assume ball, and then take it off and then claim ball.
Third time's a charm. Third Third time. Try it slower. You acquired your vertical with a plumb bob. Ergo, you do not need to correct for dip on a cloudy day. You have already established a horizontal plane parallel to the GP at your elevation. No dip needed. Third time.
Yeah, but if I don't adjust for dip, right, I'm
No,
not
you
on
don't.
a ball.
That's you know. If you don't adjust for dip, you're on a ball. Did you just say?
Yeah.
He's
No,
got a
if you-
different dip.
No,
He's-
no. If you don't adjust for dip, then you've got a horizontal plane at your altitude that you establish with your plumb bob, and no correction needed because the GP is directly below wherever it is on your horizontal plane and the ground below it. So that doesn't mean you're on a ball. That only works on a flat plane, Anthony.
Yeah, but if I can adjust for a dip angle, right, I
You
can make
can't.
people think that that dip.
Fourth
I'm
time.
going to do it anyway.
Fourth
I'm going to
time.
make people think that.
Don't need dip if you are using a plumb bob, bubble sextant, or artificial horizon. It's the fourth time.
I know, but you're not listening, Nathan. If I adjust for my dip correction, right, because I measure the dip angle, I can then make people think that that dip angle is caused by Earth curve.
You're not doing that. You told me that you established your zenith as your horizontal, 90 degrees to it at the elevation. I said, that's the first question Are you doing this intentionally to piss me off? Our first question I asked, how did you establish your vertical? And you said, I drop a plumb line. Well, then you don't need the horizon anymore, do you?
Correct.
Right, so what are you accounting for dip for, pray tell, when you don't need the horizon anymore?
Because I'm on a ball, Nathan.
You don't need... What? You didn't have to listen. What dip correction? There isn't one.
There is if you're on a ball.
But we're not doing it because you've used artificial horizon, bubble sextant, or plumb line. So no dip correction will be factored in. None. Fifth time.
I need to because I know I'm on a ball.
Sextants don't need dip correction if you already have an established horizontal. Sixth time. Maybe from someone else. 10th, perhaps from you. I don't know. I'll give up.
Yes,
Anthony.
I see what Anthony's doing. He's already lost. He's just reiterating the point he lost on over and over and over. So let me try again. Anthony, what's dip angle correction to a baller?
Proof of a curve.
No. What is it? Why do you do it?
Well, it depends. Are you asking me as a flat earther or as a baller?
No, as a baller. Let's just continue. So you said I'm going to do dip after Nathan said that if you are going to assume a horizontal with a bubble
because they want a
sextant-
tangent line, don't they? They're using it as a tangent line.
No, what is dip? What is dip? Is dip a subtraction, addition? What is dip?
Well, dip's the adjustment in the angle to the horizon, isn't it? If you can't see far enough for it to be perfectly horizontal, like they say on a
No, he's got that wrong. No, that's wrong. No.
That's
It's not. It's the other way around. The dip correction's done if you can see the horizon. So you do that if you're not establishing horizontal with a bubble or with any other means. You're just pointing the lens at the horizon. But if you're at Blackpool Tower and pointing at the horizon, then you have to adjust for your height above the ground.
So back to Anthony. Anthony, why is dip always a subtraction number?
Well, I'm only using dip in this example to enforce or to make people think that it's necessary because of a ball. I'm not using it for any other reason.
I know, but it is only necessary when you're sighting the natural horizon and you're on a 20-foot boat. Then you must minus 20 feet to get to sea level. So you have a horizontal then. But you don't need dip whatsoever with an artificial horizon or a bubble sextant because you're already assuming a horizontal. You're assuming a right angle.
You guys do realize I was only playing devil's advocate, right? I was doing
No, you're joking.
No, I'm playing the part because that is what they do. They focus on dip angle to make so that everyone can think that that's to do with being on a ball.
No, but dip to them is pointing the sextant down.
Yeah, it violates one of the principles of use. You're trying to establish a horizontal, right? That's what you're doing with the tool. But in their dip, they're pointing it down to something that's curving away from them, ball-like, and therefore the tool is rendered useless. Hence, how can you get an elevation angle from a curved adjacent? You can't, is the answer.
That's the reason why I was dwelling on dip for that month, because the more I talk about dip, right, the more people think that ball, because dip, ball, they all think that visibility is ability, things that you can't see because of the air in the atmosphere or whatever. That people think that the minute you say dip, they think ball.
Right, but when you go to the books, and say what is dip, it doesn't say it's a ball. It's height above sea level.
Hey, Adam, go ahead.
It's mathematically, if the horizon was the leading edge of a ball and it did form an obstruction, you could use that mathematics on a ball, because by knowing your height, you would know where that physical obstruction is. That's the maths they use. That's why you just have to say black swan to it, because as soon as it is, and it's not in the geometrically stated position, or even in a 7/6 refracted position, yeah, second it's not, then all that mathematics falls apart, because it's that mathematics that they use to level the device. Now, if the place you point in the sextant at, whether it's level or off by an amount, unless you know the amount it's off by, then you can't adjust. Therefore, the angle is just inappropriate to take, because you've got no certainty. Yeah, because you're not able to line your sextant up if you're using the horizon as your leveling tool. You could only do that if it was a physical place. And so Black Swan demonstrates that. Therefore, it demonstrates that the maths is incapable of being used correctly in its derivation in practicality.
You hear that, Ruhif? Yeah, I'll summarise that as you're gonna need a geometric horizon for that there mathematics, Rufy. Any evidence we can have gas pressure without a container?
I only came in because I thought Tony had spent the night at Ranty's or something.
Yeah, he's talking about him like his ex-lover or something, wasn't he?
It was just the veracity of that Tony. It was quite a bit ball-winning.
Anthony's gone to the extent of faking a graduation ceremony on VHS, hoping that no one will notice the grainy footage and the stand-in fat dude that he's got. You know, it's never going to work, Anthony. We all know you're lying about your qualifications.
What's he done? Had a really close shave and put a corset on, and then gone down the yard, mate. Faking it, Anthony. Shocking.
I could spot that a mile away. Right, I sniffed out fake photography and CGI, and then just all he's done is he's filmed it in low res, blurred the camera a bit, and then fed it through a VCR so it looks a bit more grainy. It's just like NASA when they filmed the moon landing, you know, second generation.
Do you know what I'm going to do?
Well, he is quite clever.
Do you know what I'm going to do when I convert it off VHS onto a digital format? Right, I'm actually going to put that, you know, that old film filter on it on purpose to troll, just to make it look even more old.
Oh, you're going to make it look like a cine film, like an 8mm camera with all the lines and shit.
Yeah. So if you're not familiar, right, there's a filter you can put on your videos that it's called old film filter, and it puts like noise in the background and the odd random line, you know, like it did in the olden days when it was. I'm going to add that to it just to take the piss.
Was it you that put it can't be faked? It would have been easier just to do the course.
Yeah, I love that line. It would have been. He said it would have been easier to just. No, it's more difficult to fake than to just get the qualifications. And my response was, "Well, just go and get them then."
No, I said it was more difficult to fake than it was to just pass the exams.
Yeah, and I said, just pass them then.
It's funny that even John Dee's felt the need to, in the past, dig out his doctorate just to say, if anyone asks, here it is. You know what I mean? I don't even know where mine is.
Yeah, he showed me. Unprompted.
To be fair, Adam.
He was getting
that's fight the flat Earth.
Go on, Anthony, sorry.
That's Fight the Flat Earth's argument as well. He doesn't know where his is. The difference is Adam's like 50 something and Fight the Flat Earth's like, what, 30 something? So Adam's got a plausible excuse, but someone that's in the 30s, no, you're not going to get away with not knowing where it is.
Right, did you not get a record of achievement, Adam? Was that a new thing? I think it might have been new for my school year.
No, we nothing like that. Just nice scroll of paper. And then you took it away, don't you? Because you don't want to lose it. You don't want to damage it. You don't want to put it on your wall, do you? Really, it's not that. You know what I mean? So, but I mean, luckily, what I have got in the shops when I work post grad, you have to then do other qualifications to register on the register. So, in the old days, you used to have a huge, big A sort of 3 certificate that I have to hang on the wall so people could see who was working. So I've still got that. That's in one of the dispensers. You don't have to show them anymore either.
Yeah, it's all done electronically now.
Yeah, I've got that proof, but that's I don't think I can find
the funny thing is though, if one makes the complaint that like in my case, my degree, my undergrad is fake, right? It then follows logically and evidentially that it must be the case that the postgrad is also fake or recklessly incompetent, because to get onto a postgrad after you do an undergrad, they've got to check your transcript. So you've got to give them all your grades. They've got to go away and check it. Then they've got to read your personal statement. None of that process has obviously happened with me. I've just faked both of them. So I'm like, yeah, this is quite an easy one for me to prove. So I'm just building up a nest egg of evidence just in case it ever rears its ugly head again. I suspect it's going to be dropped like a hot stone.
I don't know. I think it's all possible, this, because, I mean, you can fake emails from Sam Hines' account, can't you? So you can do that. You could pretty much, I think, hoodwink a university as well. It's starting to sound a lot of effort. I think it's right. It would have been easier just to do the course, Tony.
Yeah. It's easier to pass the exams than it is to fake them for an event in 20 years in the future.
There's a term that they use on the behavioural panel, a group of interrogators, basically. They call this chaff and redirect. So imagine you're in a gunfight and you're chasing the following jet, and then they launch off a load of chaff, right? A load of shit comes out the side of the fighter jet, right? The idea being that you're distracted by all the crap coming out of them and you'll follow something that isn't actually the plane that you're following, yeah? So you'll follow down some random path that's not related to the thing you're actually targeting. So in this case, what are we targeting? Well, we're targeting the globe Earth paradigm in its entirety. One of the biggest deceptions in Western world history, currently under the thumb of a complete nonsense religion. That's what we have as our target. What do the anti-flat earthers have to refute that? Nothing. They don't have anything. So what do? Well, they chaff and redirect. Anthony's not got a degree. Oh, really? That will be very fascinating for however many people know Anthony. How many people know that the Earth's a sphere? Oh, that would be into the millions and millions and millions of people, would it? Yeah. What we cover is definitely an address to the Western world paradigm. It's a big issue that we cover. What the anti-flat earthers cover are individuals from the flat earth community. That's what the anti-flat earthers cover. Look at this one dude, who also expansively is stereotyped as the entire belief of X. That's what they do. Focus on one individual. So in today's Stars in Your Eyes, Anthony is flat Earth. So you are representing.
If it all was fake, it's definitely a ball, then, isn't it? Anthony faked his degree.
Exactly. Stereotyped into, if Anthony's degree's not real, what's the conclusion, given the subject matter? That the Earth's a ball? It's just chaff.
Can I just point out that technique that you just described? What did you call it? Chaff and distract.
Chaff and redirect.
Chaff and redirect. That is this is a redirection from a point that Flatzoid was back and forth with Ranty on. Ranty was wrong about something. Flatzoid was pointing it out, and rather than Ranty concede and admit that he got it wrong, this was his chaff and redistract. Chaff and what did you say?
Chaff and redirect. Shout out to the behaviour panel.
This was his chaff and redirect tactic that he chose. His redirect tactic was to attack me instead. I haven't spoke to Ranty in months. I haven't seen any of his videos in months. Anyway, he said this is a chaff and redirect attack, which is essentially a red herring fallacy. That's what the red herring fallacy is. It's to do something like on purpose to cause a distraction. And he walked right into this. I'm like, but what I've noticed is that when ball earthers are cornered, because they're cornered, and they do it all the time, they will come back with some, like you say, chaff and distract tactic to try and get you away from the fact that they've just lost. We see it all the time. Watch for it now with like these new flat earthers that are new ball earthers that are like Limey play. He'll never concede any points ever. He'll chaff and redirect all the time, and that's what Ranty did with Flatzoid.
That's what my friend Matthew Learns did, the math professor. QE and a few of us were in 24/7, and QE asked us 3 questions. The new 3 questions formed around getting an angle, elevation angle, and he answered them straightforward. No, you can't. No, you can't. No, you can't. And then he says, "Well, I want to see what the difference is between the horizontal and the curve." And I said, "Well, isn't that just a red herring? Because they don't do it that way anyway. What do you want to know that for?" He's like, "Well, I think it could be done on a block." I said, "But you just answered the 3 questions. So which one is it? Is it no, you can't achieve an elevation angle, or yes, you can?" But the point is,
Stop.
they'll just try
Stop. Summarize the 3 questions. So what Eli's alluding to are 3 questions that Quantum Eraser has formulated that is presumably been posed to, do you say Matthew? Can you just paraphrase or ideally repeat verbatim those questions for me, Eli?
Oh, sorry, I don't even have them on hand. I can get them in literally.
That's okay.
Like 10,
Adam, were you piping it?
seconds.
Hold on, just 1 sec, Eli. Were you piping it because you happen to hand, Adam? Oh no.
If not,
Dodgy.
Eli, get him.
It's all right, Eli. Everyone's dropping like flies from my panel for some reason. I think they've got internet.
You want me to read those 3, Nathan?
Yes,
Yeah,
please. Thank God, saved by 10th man.
All right. Attention to all flat earthers. The official land of the Baltard, spinning space, monkey religion is here. Follow these 3 easy steps. Number 1, are sextants used by mariners to successfully navigate using the relationship between the Earth's surface and celestial objects? Question mark. Number 2, are sextants used to obtain elevation angles from your position to celestial objects? Question mark. Number 3, can you obtain an elevation angle from a curved baseline, spherical surface? Question mark. Welcome to Flat Earth.
I'm going to repeat that. So, question 1. Are sextants used by mariners to successfully navigate using the relationship between the Earth's surface and celestial objects? That's question 1. Question 2. Are sextants used to obtain elevation angles from your position to celestial objects? That's question 2. Question 3. Can you obtain an elevation angle from a curved adjacent? That's a curved baseline, spherical surface. That's question 3. Welcome to Flat Earth, the end.
And that's exactly where he tried to introduce the red herring by disengaging from point number 1. Now, point number 1, or question number 1 again, is, are sextants used by mariners to successfully navigate using the relationship between the Earth's surface and celestial objects? So this is where he tried to distance what he was trying to do with his red herring and this question, although he had previously answered, yes, sextants are used, yada yada yada. So, and there's a number of ways, like you said, they're just gonna try to weasel out of it.
Newbie in Discord. Hey, Chop. Are you new? Chop. On mute at the moment, Chop. Can you hustle your way off mute and say a quick hello? Anybody vouch for Chop? Anybody know who he is?
I do not.
Not me.
Hey, Chop. Good to have you. Ugh. I love it. Join a live stream. Disappear completely. Don't even say hello. Alrighty then. Did we actually complete the housekeeping questions?
No, let's go back to gravity. Shout out to Issa.
Okay, you said you were digging out certain things. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Okay, so on our side, you guys are going to have to. What I'm going to do here, I'm actually going to take this and stick this into a different browser because for some reason, and I don't know why, I've got these AdSense things popping up everywhere on Google Chrome. I must have got some Trojanware or whatever. Right, so on our side, we're going to have to be aware of this because this is going to come up. If we're not aware of this, you're going to be behind the times because it's going to get rammed down our throats. And we've got sciencealerts.com are reporting that there's been bloody hell, look at all these bloody adverts. Anyway, Michelle Starr is reporting this that physicists have just made the smallest gravitational field measurements ever. And it's basically a repeat of the Cavendish experiment, but they've used tiny little weights that are being done in a vacuum chamber. And this is claiming basically Newtonian physics. And they're claiming that this proves gravitational attraction. However, this directly violates the claims in current science of Einstein claiming that gravity is not a force. It is an effect of the curvature of space-time caused by the uneven distribution of mass. Now, be aware, because they're going to use this to claim against us, saying that gravity is force. Well, where's the peer review? Because peer review should be kicking in and science should be supporting itself, weeding out its wheat from its chaff and correcting itself with this claim. Because if Newton is, or if Einstein's theory of general relativity is correct, then this claim should not exist because there is no such thing as gravitational attraction. Yet this document is claiming that there is. Now, this document is dated March 2021. So in March of 2021, we've got Michelle Starr reporting that Newtonian gravitation is a thing. However, current science accepts that it's Einsteinian and it is not a thing. So when we click onto Michelle Starr, we can see who she is. She is a senior journalist at Science Alert. Her deep love and curiosity for the cosmos has made the publication a world leader in reporting developments in space research. Now, if this doesn't stink of pseudoscience nonsense, you're never going to understand what pseudoscience is. This woman, Michelle Starr, is pushing bullshit, and it's literally to deceive people in the topic. Because I don't know whether it's coincidental, whether it's conspiratorial, but the fact that it's been done in a vacuum is one of the topics that we're pushing in the minute because we want to see this, whether it works in a vacuum or not, and this is claiming that it's been done. Well, just be aware that this document does exist, being pushed by a cosmologist, not a scientist, not a physicist, not somebody that's reputable. It's just Michelle Starr. She's probably one of the troll accounts in our topic right now, trolling people, asking for evidence, whatever. She's probably one of those troll accounts.
You did say that it's like the Cavendish experiment, but you did point out that it's pseudoscience. Why? Because neither that nor Cavendish was an experiment.
Well, she's claiming a Newtonian perspective. She's claiming a Newtonian perspective, and current science is Einsteinian. And if we're not aware this document exists, it'll be used against you to prove Cavendish, right? And if you're not aware it exists and who it's written by and what it's trying to prove, then you're not going to be able to respond to it. So you'll be forced into accepting that Newtonian gravitation and mass attracting mass is a thing. But if you know about it and you know it's written by somebody that's basically a cosmologist by admitting it herself, then you know how to deal with it. This is not science. This is not the current position. Where's peer review? That's what you need to be focusing on because peer review should be weeding this shit out and it's not going to do it, is it? Can't support the narrative.
Focusing on peer review? No. What's the independent and dependent variable in this claim to be experiment?
Don't they claim that peer review corrects itself? Because if somebody publishes something that's nonsense, then it'll fix itself. And
I don't care what they claim. This is claimed to be an experiment. Therefore, it needs an independent and dependent variable, and it has neither. It doesn't have an observed phenomena. The claim in the Newtonian claim to be experiment Cavendish is mass attracting mass. If mass, then mass attracts mass, being the extrapolated hypothesis that we've dragged out of the idiots that claim this crap.
Just they don't really describe it, but yeah, where you're highlighting there, Tony. But what about really, really small gravitational interactions? Typically, these have been really challenging to measure. They can't because it's so difficult to uncouple them from the Earth's gravity. Lovely, right? And other perturbations. That's the line I read that says, it's Cavendish. So once again, they're not measuring an effect; they're interpreting an effect within the perturbations of the the torsion bar. So it's the same old nonsense. They're even forcing their effect or interpreting it by recognition that the device perturbates.
But for me, the bigger question.
Just 1 second, Anthony. The actual phenomena is torsion bar twist. That's the
yes.
That's the actual phenomena. It's not natural, but that's what they're actually studying.
Yeah.
I'm more worried about the bigger picture. I think we all understand the current position with Einstein and over Newton, right? But the bigger picture is, why is this person, Michelle Starr, publishing stuff that's pro-Newtonian gravitation in March of 2021 and nobody on their side is challenging it? This woman should be, what's the effect of peer review for them on their side? They would say it self-corrects itself. Well, where's the self-correction? From where is the peer review working against this woman and calling her all shill and all that? Where's that? Because that's what we need to see that peer review's got any credibility whatsoever. We need to see people correcting it.
Well, it depends, right? And what I mean by it depends is, well, are we her biggest promoters? I mean, this could be some crackpot that's, at a university doing something that no one cares about. Are we the ones popularizing her idea? Like, is it really irrelevant in the broader sense?
We're not her peers, though, are we? I think that's the point Tony's making, that there's nothing amendment or response to say, it's like we've recognised, this is just a piece of crap Cavendish parlour trick. Again, yeah, you're not doing science. You've not, isolated anything. And as Nathan summarised, the effect is within the apparatus.
It's the equivalent of Ferrari releasing an article on drum brakes and how fantastic they are, and nobody around them in the car industry going, what the hell are you talking about drum brakes for? Nobody uses drum brakes. We're all on discs. Why are you talking about the fantastic advantages and proving the benefits of drums? Why is nobody calling this out?
No. It's like before they release their new drum discs, they point out that drum discs are crap. Don't work and were superseded years ago. They even use the word supersede. So they put the disclaimer in that what they're about to describe to prove is no longer relevant because it's Newtonian. Those paragraphs before, Tony, where Einstein's theory of general relativity is a model we use to describe and predict gravitational interactions, but this is Newtonian what they're doing. They're not really suggesting they're bending space-time at that point, because I don't think modern physics even suggests that at that scale, that's what's happening.
It's a totally different mathematics. It's a completely different geometry. So what she's talking about is Euclidean, right? She's talking about mass attracting mass. That's what she's trying to show. Well,
yeah, but look at how she words it. She words it as the gravitational field rather than mass attracting mass. She talks about the Earth's tiny gravitational field. So that's a new phraseology. They normally talk about the attraction of mass between mass, don't they? They normally talk about the force of gravitation. But I think she's being Weasley on purpose because she says...
Weasley? You're not kidding. If she's talking about the gravitational Einsteinian field, then she's talking about the curvature of space-time. That's what the effect is.
Yeah. So what she's talking, right? She admits that general relativity supersedes an earlier model, right? Now, obviously, Fight the Flat Earth and his cronies are telling people that means refine. It doesn't. It means replace. Like drum brakes didn't refine disc brakes didn't refine drum brakes. They replaced them, right? Essentially, that's the same argument here. So she's acknowledging that the relativity supersedes the earlier model of Newtonian universal gravitation, right?
But Tony, just read the middle of the paragraph above it. However, when we get down to quantum scales, here she now admits that relativity doesn't work either. Look, general relativity breaks down and quantum mechanics takes over. So she gives all the disclaimers to say that what she's about to do and the mathematics she's going to do it in is broken. It doesn't work. And then she goes, look, finally, Newtonian physics works well for most terrestrial applications, even if it stumbles a little in an astrophysical setting. And that's what she's going to do in a new experiment now.
Yeah. Let me just do the analogy again with the brakes. So it's the equivalent of making the disclaimer at the beginning of the article that we are currently on ceramic brakes. Yeah? That's the disclaimer, because they're the most up-to-date, most superior brakes. And prior to that, yeah, we used discs, which were similar but different materials. But ultimately, the following article will bestow the benefits of drum brakes. Not notwithstanding the fact that we don't use them, they've been superseded and then superseded again. And then in the article it says, well, we understand that normal steel disc brakes will wear out and suffer heat loss through cycling repeatedly, and therefore ceramics are better. Drums are what we're showing in this experiment. You're like, what? So you're saying that ceramics are the current, and prior to ceramics it was steels, but discs, but you're now telling us about your experiment with drums. So she's telling you that quantum takes over at the tiny scale, but Einsteinian is ultimately the gravity that I'm going to allude to, but ultimately Newtonian is the experiment I'm going to be showing you. It's just a clusterfuck.
But it gets worse though, because look at what it says. I've highlighted this bit. It says Newtonian physics works well, right? That if you look at the words that she's used there, Newtonian physics, right, works well. Well, first off, Newtonian physics is based on mathematics, right? It's not based on actuality, right? But she's saying that Newtonian physics works well. What she really means to say is Newtonian calculations seem to work well. But she's making you think that Newtonian physics is the actual verb of something being done, the doing word, right? But we know that gravity is not a force. So I think that this language, this phraseology, it's deliberately confusing people because it's being weaselly with the wording to make you think that this is current science when actually,
not only
when you
that,
start going through stuff, you realize
not only
it's
that,
not.
there's 10% off everything at Trade Point at the moment. Did you know that?
Yeah, there we go. Well, not that. There you go.
Isn't this just showing the dangers of like deduction and induction? Because they've not eliminated.
What this is showing
not,
is
hold on,
this
Anthony.
website.
Hold on. Just let him get. Go ahead, John.
Well, where they haven't used the scientific method, they've not eliminated, three-toed pixies as being the cause, and in this case, they've made gravity the three-toed pixies. So that like manipulating yeah, right. But manipulating the independent variable is what gives you the abductive reasoning. So like they're not using any of that, and that's the problem.
What they're doing actually is they're brainwashing the latest kids coming out with popular science to make the kids think that Cavendish is still current. That's what they're doing. It's deliberate deceit, in my opinion, because this website is aimed at youngsters. It's aimed at popular science. It's not aimed at real science, and it's not going to be. They're hoping this goes under the radar in the sense that if they can get the kids to be influenced by it, but the adults don't pay attention to it because it's aimed at popular science rather than actual science, then it'll go under the radar from our perspective. But I think it's worth talking about this because ultimately you can see what they're actually doing. They're aiming it at kids. They're aiming it at youngsters that are learning into getting involved in science in some way. This isn't aimed at us. It's not aimed at anybody in our topic. It's aimed purely at the kids. And that's the problem with the education at the moment. It's brainwashing.
With that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you, first and foremost, to both Discord and G+ Panels for making today's live show possible. If you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Programming Streams, stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So, a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley. Stay tuned if you're watching on a premiering stream, and I'll see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!
No gravitational paper, blah blah. Newtonian mechanics work so well. Yeah, in calculations, it's very cute. That's what I've been saying like 4 years ago.
Hold on, I've been saying it since yesterday. Everybody made fun of me that we got to push this and we got to get something written up and get this into schools. And nobody cares what's going to happen.
Okay, well now you've got.
Because
Hold on,
it's
I did.
already.
Hold on, just one second, Eli. The reason I didn't have this conversation with you yesterday, Neil, is because Sleeping Warrior wasn't here. Because with Sleeping Warrior, I can say with a bit of authority that your pipe dreams of changing the education structure are just so wildly beyond what is actually possible.
See what I'm saying, Anthony? See what I'm saying? Pipe dreams.
Okay.
Nobody else should know the truth. Just all of us, and that's it.
But it's already in school. The information is already there. Navigation, things about navigation and trigonometry, that's already all there. The scientific method, that's already all there. You're talking about a curriculum that specifically tells children that the earth is flat.
That's up to the parents to do that.
No, it's not, is it?
That is not what I said.
Yeah, it is.
That is not what I said.
Hold on. Hold on, just let Anthony
Let's
speak.
get it out there.
You know, Anthony replies, pondered, now he's replying.
You can't teach kids an education and call it an education if it's up to the parents to correct it. That's nonsense.
Not correct it, teach it.
Isn't that the point of education, though, that they get taught
Flat,
to correctly
right?
in the first
The
place?
flat part, not like trigonometry, just that the Earth is flat. That's up to the parents.
If they're being taught lies in the first place, it's not up to the parents to correct it. It's up to the teachers and the schools to
That's
get it
not.
right.
That's a straw man. That's not what I'm saying. I'm going by the assumption that parents are going to tell their kids before they go to school, right, to prepare them, or not. But it's up to the. It's not like, oh, the school that my teacher said the Earth was a ball. Why? I've never heard of this before, right? To prevent that, yeah, parents should probably give a basic.
Okay, this is fascinating, but I just want to get back onto the actual subject. So, for Neil's benefit, we're talking about policy, therefore political, therefore the process of anything changing at all is arduous and expensive in some regards. Yeah, and in some regards completely futile. There are certain aspects that just won't change. Yeah? Unless they're in the process of being changed, and then you can get involved. I say that unless you're directly involved with these bodies of government when it comes to policy. If you're not, then there are limited ways in terms of getting things changed. Now, knowing that was one of the reasons why the moment I read the 2020 COVID Act, I was like, that's it. That's it now. It's part of our legislation. That's it. There's nothing you can do because the time to do something about it was prior to that being the case. Yeah? Now, in this instance with education, most, if not all of it, has already gone through the legislative process. So there are limited routes in to change anything at all, unless you're the Education Secretary. Now, as a citizen, you can write to the Education Secretary, which I believe you've done, have you not, Anthony?
Yeah.
Right. And when you wrote to him and explained, as I'm sure you did, about the problems in terms of, let's say, Newtonian gravity, did he understand and agree with you?
No, he did everything but address the point I made. He told us how the teachers were free to teach whatever they thought was appropriate and how they got the freedom to talk about other more diverse views and opinions, but ultimately he never addressed the point. So now I have it on with my local MP.
Just out of interest, Anthony, given that this is one tiny element of an out-of-date pseudoscience that we don't even agree with anyway, how long... Who's causing feedback in Discord? Close your mic, whoever the fuck that is. Truth be told. Completely lost my train of thought thanks to that idiot.
How long were you saying? How long?
How long have you spent on this issue where the current out-of-date pseudoscience of Einstein isn't even being taught? It's the 107-year out-of-date Newtonian. Just out of interest, how long do you think you've spent on this with precisely sod-all progress?
Months. Because the problem is, the education department doesn't acknowledge that there's a problem.
My local MP doesn't realise that he's not been taught the current position in science. And when I correct him and say, this is the current position in science, Einstein, he doesn't realise that because he was taught Newtonian. So when I point out that Newtonian science isn't the current position in science anymore, for some reason it doesn't compute. So I end up having to have, and these take weeks to come. This isn't a back and forth that takes days. I'll message him immediately, but I won't get a response off him for maybe a month. And in that time, he'll say, "Thank you very much for your email. I've read your contents of your email, and I've forwarded it to the Department of Education, and they've come back and said that they spoke to you about it." And I'm like, "You didn't address my point. My point was that they're not being taught the current position in science. Yet that's the essence of. I mean, think about it. What is the point in LIGO if it costs the American taxpayers $1.1 billion? That's money that people have had taken off them, and that to get that funding, they would have had to say it'll advance mankind in some way, right? Well, where's the advancement in mankind if the kids are not being taught it? Surely there's got to be some accountability for the spending of all that money and the taking of all that money if the kids are not going to be taught it. Because what's the point in doing it if we're not going to actually?
What was that?
Go on.
Sorry, my bad.
What would be the point in doing it if we're not actually going to pass on that claimed knowledge to kids and say, "Hey guys, it's not Newton anymore, it's Einsteinian. There's gravitational waves. These are what gravitational waves are believed to be. We spent $1.1 billion of your mum and dad's taxpayers' money on this, and this is the fruits of the yield. This is what is the leading edge." Why are they not being taught that? Is it because they don't want to teach it them because it's a convention that they just learn Newtonian, or is it that they don't want to do it because they don't want to be accountable to teaching them nonsense? But either way, they still took $1.1 billion. So that needs to be accounted for, surely.
Now, the whole Einsteinian deal and the math, it's too complicated for young children. It really is. Now, some teachers might hint at it, like, "Oh, in university, we teach you about that." That's what I got in school, remember? So it's way too complicated. Newton is a simple concept for kids. If you throw Einsteinian mechanics, I'm not done yet. If you throw Einstein mechanics at them, they'll just be completely lost and they'll fail the class. That's it.
So I have had that back from them, and I pointed out in the lead case, the Dimmick case, it didn't say that complicated maths was a reason not to teach kids the truth. It literally says the only reason why you would not teach them something is if it is not supported by the current position in science based on research, fact, and evidence. Well, Newton's not based on research, fact, and evidence anymore. So when I gave him that back, his response was, "Maybe you should seek independent legal advice." And I'm like, "No, this is the point. You're supposed to be representing the people, and it's clear that the current position in science is not being taught to kids for whatever reason. That needs to be corrected." But it's like I'm speaking French. It's like he doesn't seem to understand it at all.
I think what you're actually aiming at, which would be much more practical, is to update Newtonian mechanics. Because if you're going to literally replace the entire curriculum with Einstein mechanics again, children are going to be lost. I would be lost. I would just not be able to follow. It's way too advanced, right, to just throw that on young kids. Like, what age are they going to be? Like 12 or 13? I don't know. But you could update it and basically clarify the mistakes about it, that it doesn't account for gas behavior except for friction, etc., and then try to work out like a basic update for it so it can still be utilized. It will be completely separate from Einstein mechanics, and it will still kind of work out except with the update. That is a viable possibility to do.
I asked them, but let me right. So your first point was that it's too complicated and that it would confuse the shit out of kids, right? We have visualizations that are generated on computer to demonstrate how this curvature of space-time behaves in Einsteinian. We also have that stretching out of the blanket and the balls rolling around it. Okay, might not be ideal, but it's a visualization that doesn't need any maths to explain it. It doesn't need any complicated explanations.
How is that visualization going to make the kids understand? Seriously. How do they understand even like the complications with the extra dimension being attempted to be represented? No, a mind like that at that age just not ready for complicated presuppositional based thinking and all that, like sub-dimension. There's no way. Okay. Except for like brilliant kids class.
Okay, so again, legally, it doesn't say that complicated issues should be lied to children about. It says that they should be taught the current position in science, right? So if that
Good
makes
luck
it
with
too
that.
complicated, they need to dilute it down for kids in a way that kids can understand it, which is not my problem. But what is the problem is that they're not teaching the current science. Now, however you want to package that up, it doesn't matter how they change it, but it does need to be changed because they don't reference Einstein at all. They only talk about Newton. Well, that's not the current science, but it's not my job to rewrite the curriculum. It's my job to point out that there's a bit of a hole there that needs to be corrected, and it needs to be corrected sooner rather than later, and they need to correct it. But for them to do their bit isn't my bit. My bit is to point out that they need to change.
Well, neither are science. So are you going to deal with that issue too?
It's not my issue, is it? They've got to do it based on the current science.
You're
If
calling
it's
it science. You're calling it current science. Neither are science, Tony. Are they?
But it is, one of them's considered to be current science.
Considered to be, but it isn't.
Well,
and you
what
have
does that
legal
have to do
issues
with
with what
Tony's
is
point?
and what isn't. So why are you
Can you
calling
tell
it
me
science?
how is that related to Tony's point? The question that you're asking, please.
Because he has objections with current science.
No,
well, it
no,
isn't.
objections with. I have the objection with the problem is, Arwin, the kids are being taught something that's wrong. Now, the justification for it being wrong is that Einstein is a bit more complicated. Okay, but that's not my problem. That's their problem to come over. But that doesn't justify teaching them the wrong science in the first place.
Right, and I offered a solution to that, and that is update Newtonian mechanics, and that's it. So it accounts for the problems that the original just didn't do. And then also clarify he never claimed the hypothesis, all that, the complete works. Just be full honest about what it is, teach that.
Exactly.
As a study for mechanics.
And
but that's still not related to Tony's point because first of all, it's been superseded. You can't update something that's been replaced. So his point is, since the current position is that Einsteinian is the current standard, that should be taught. That's it.
Yeah.
Well, you could completely just scrap it from schools altogether. Then just no more Newtonian, no more Einstein, nothing, because neither are science. Okay,
well,
neither. Just scrap it all.
That's not his point. That's a red herring, though.
But that's the result of his point, though.
No, it's not. That's just a red herring to his point. It's just a red herring.
You want to be updated? Why? Updated with something that's provably pseudoscience?
You're the one that said it needs to be updated. No, they need to teach the kids the current, according to them and according to their system, they have scientific standards that are not up to snuff with what they're teaching in high school or wherever.
So you know how we have the tramp stamp on our YouTube videos? It says along the lines of the flat Earth model is an archaic thing. They need to do that in the national curriculum with regards to the Newtonian gravitation arguments, because that is archaic. It has been superseded. Children need to be told that that's not the current position in science, and they need to be told in such a way that makes them realize that they are learning something that is purely historical, antiquated, and is subject to change. It has been changed. They also need to be told what the current position is, where to learn more out about it, and they need to understand that what they're learning in basic high school is no longer the current position in science. That bit
I was 30 years ago.
You might have been.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not in our national curriculum though. And I'm pretty certain most Americans were not either.
All right.
I mean, Elijah, were you taught that there was Einstein? I hadn't even heard of Einstein until like.
Honestly, they dropped the ball on a sheet and they're like, "That's curvature space time."
They did that for you
when I was very young.
Yeah, they did that with me too. Just that, only that, and that was it. That was
So
like
just
the end
clarify,
of
Elijah.
physics class.
Just to clarify, Elijah, did you just say then that they dropped the ball on the sheet and said that's the curvature of space time? They actually did that with you?
Yes.
Fucking hell, I didn't get that. Nathan, did you get that?
Nathan's getting a coffee, I think.
But they didn't explain it. They didn't explain it in any detail or anything. What they did explain in detail was Newtonian physics.
I didn't get told anything about Einstein in school, with respect to like the galaxy or solar system. It was all to do with Newton.
I didn't get told that there was anything beyond that. But I want to know, Adam, what were you taught in school? Can you remember? Or 10th?
I don't know as I remember
Guys,
doing.
guys, can I ask a quick question, please?
Hold on one second.
Can we
Adam.
finish the conversation, please?
I just finished my sentence, and then I remember seeing that demonstration, but I think, to be honest, it was probably on a ropey VHS video where you'd have been shown it. To set something like they wouldn't have done that in our school, but it certainly wasn't at GCSE. It would have been when I did A-level physics for a bit. I'm sure that's where I'd have seen it on a.
Yeah, maybe in physics you might get told about that, but
I was demonstrated in the class, that effect.
What was Discord?
In high school?
Hold on a second.
Is that high school? It's like 30.
No, it was actually elementary school because it was a fun activity to do.
Hello?
Go on, what's your question?
Sorry, I was just in the Britannica. It does say that Newton's theory is sufficient even today for all but the most precise applications. So, is that saying that it's not been superseded, or what?
Yeah, that's what it's doing is it's letting you think that because the mathematics calculate the effect sufficiently at our level, when it says that Newtonian physics is sufficient, it's allowing you to think that they're an equivalence when they're actually fundamentally different. The maths is nowhere near the same, but what they're trying to make you think is that because 2 + 2 = 4, and so does 1 + 3 = 4, they're thinking that you can get to 4 both ways, and it's perfectly fine. Now, you can get to 4 both ways, but you can't get to Newtonian and Einsteinian gravitation effects with the same way at all. They've got fundamentally different things. Like, for instance, Einstein's limitation to light, the speed of light, is something that didn't exist with Newtonian because it was instantaneous. So gravitational waves don't exist with Newton. They only exist with Einstein because of the limitations of the speed of light. So if gravitational waves do exist, then that means that Newton's theory is not correct. So when they say they're similar or that they work like the maths works out similar so that you get the 4 at the end of it, but when you realize that the mechanics to get you to 4 are fundamentally different, they're not really compatible. In fact, they're mutually exclusive.
Newton
What does
never
Newton
proposed
have to do with
scientific
light?
theory. I got to stop you because you just keep going and going and going and going. For the 18,000th time, Newton never proposed a scientific theory in his life.
What does Newton
So
mechanics
change-
have to do with light whatsoever?
so
There's
change
not
the
even a
verbiage.
mention of the word light in Newton mechanics. What are you talking about, Tony? Newton mechanics only deals with liquids and solids. It has literally nothing to do with anything else. Where are you getting this from? Light. Oh, I think it just dropped off.
It does say in the Britannica Newton's theory, though. It doesn't say his scientific.
Oh, they're
proof.
wrong too.
He never claimed the hypothesis, so Britannica can say whatever they want. They're wrong. Right? You
I
have
agree.
to claim a hypothesis to be registered to have a theory. He never claimed it, so they can call it a theory, but it isn't.
Also, let's roll back to the Science Alert article. Number one, and this peer review thing. Number one, peer review has nothing to do with this. Science Alert is not a peer review journal. It's not a publishing house. It's just a science, aka or quote unquote science reporting agency. The star person there, she's just a glorified reporter. What you have to do is you have to go and find out where that study, whatever it was published, and that's who you go after, not Science Alert. And peer review is not part of the scientific method anyway. Did we sew that up?
I think so.
I had a little look for it. It was published in Nature, just to see what it was
That's what you got to go after.
Yeah, so I've got it there. I've sent the link to Tony. It's one of these paid. It's through Nature, so you got to pay for it. So I'll see if I can find it another way. But yeah, it's listed by Nature. So we've got that far, John. But Just stinks anyway. I don't think it's worth even looking at it. Just even in its own admission.
Yeah.
Hold on,
And another thing.
Isn't it
another
automatically
thing.
true?
Hold on 1 second. Oh, goodness.
But it's been published.
Go ahead.
It's been published, so therefore it's automatically true.
I did hear some Roofy, that retard Roofy. Hey, Roofy, are you listening? You see, the reason Roofy, one of the reasons why Roofy has to get in this discussion, because of his lame-ass Blackpool Swan argument. You see, this got connections to it. You know that elevation angle? Yeah, this kills your... Well, it's already dead anyway because it's moronic, but this is just another layer on top. He needs that elevation angle, right? From Blackpool Swan. Remember that? And I said this back at the time. Remember when conspiracy cats, that numpty dipshit, said, we're going to assume a flat earth here. You know why he did that?
Because he has to. Because he has to.
Yeah.
It's the same argument. The penny hadn't dropped. I'm smiling from ear to ear because the penny's just dropped now. Yes, it's the same exact thing, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
So in that example, when he's measuring his angles, even as I'm saying it, it's the same thing, right?
He didn't measure it.
No, I know he didn't.
They just
Yeah,
calculated.
I know that. I know the caveats. But ultimately speaking, he needs a flat plane. He needs a flat plane to make any of those claims. So when he said, I'm going to allow you to have a flat plane first, aren't I kind? No. You need it to be flat first.
Yeah. To make that elevation angle.
If
It only needs to be optically flat.
If it's not flat, then as well as the elevation angle, you need to know how far it is away to define how far it is away if it's on a curve, don't you?
Sorry, can I just have QE explain it again for the sake of conspiracy cats? I mean, I'll leave out the sound of your balls slapping around his face as you do so, QE, but can you just repeat it?
I pointed it out at the beginning. I didn't stress it enough because there were like 20 points that we crushed them on, and everyone went off on their different tangents. If you remember, if you go back to their original video, you'll hear conspiracy cat's numpty dipshit doesn't even know what a mirage is or the second law of thermodynamics, but I digress. He says that we're going to give them the flat earth. We're going to assume the flat earth. Well, he needed to do that so he can get an elevation angle, to calculate elevation angle to Blackpool Tower. He couldn't get it to the mountain because you can't see the base, right? So they just calculated. And I pointed it out. I said, you don't calculate that, right? You have to measure that. But regardless of that, you need a flat baseline. You need a flat adjacent to even make a calculation or measurement. And he didn't have one unless he assumed the flat earth.
So, cats, you're going to need a flat earth for that. Did you think that was some sort of generosity back in the day? Well, Ruhif's now under a similar problem, isn't he? He's going to need a geometric horizon. And he hasn't got one, Black Swan. You're going to need a flat plane for your Blackpool Swan. That's going to hurt. It's going to leave a mark, QE.
Oh, yeah, it's already left one. Indelible.
My arguments are being ignored. That's my head voice.
I don't know how, but believe it or not, I've just done an email from Conspiracy Cats with a rebuttal. How is he in the chat listening to this? Hold on, I'll just read it out to you. It says, QE, you don't understand. Love cats.
Yeah. That's it. It's all over.
Yeah. You're going to need a flat plane. If you're measuring Earth, if you're navigating Earth, if you're just looking at Earth, what you've got presented to you is a flat plane. There's no two ways about this. The Earth is obviously observably, measurably, and navigatably flat.
Optically flat.
flat. It just is what it is. And
That's
when
what
they
it
measure it in
seems
this
like.
way, they're going to need a flat plane to measure it before they even get to beg the question. Now, it's taken the sextant to make me realise that, but as QE's obviously way ahead of the curve in this regard, he recognised it when they had to beg the question of a flat plane before assuming R prior to this. Now, the monumental nature of it was obviously recognised by QE. That's why I put it into his presentation. Penny didn't drop for me till now. I love it. It's absolutely epic. It's the same argument that I'm saying is my favourite and best flat Earth proof. You can't get to beg the question. You've got to assume it's flat first to measure the angle. Notwithstanding the fact that they didn't measure it, QE.
Exactly.
Just for the record, when QE presented the question, I was going to say because he has to.
That's worth a plug if ever I've heard one. So subscribe today to Quantum Eraser. If you want to be, if I claim to be tip of the spear here, that's not the case. Yeah, in fact, by comparison, we're a dull tool. You need to be subscribed to Quantum Eraser, which is typically where this originated from. So, of course, that's where you need to get the best elixir. That's where it's spouting from. Go to the Quantum Eraser channel, hit that subscribe button, and then you'll get all this information 5 weeks before the penny drops for me.
It's okay. That was back in
And
the
all the
dust bin.
education.
Yeah, but understanding, I can appreciate my own shortcomings, but by the same token, you explain this. You know, the wires are now connected and soldered together, but before that they weren't. They were both there, but they weren't soldered together. So I love that. I think that's ace. You know, the fact that you recognised the importance of needing a flat Earth, and you told me, and I heard you, and I understood the point, but I didn't recognise the significance, the monumental blunder that means that they cannot beg the question. They've got to assume it's flat first. It's great.
Yeah.
My Baldwin side is being very triggered right now because you just systematically ignore that there is a way for ballers to deal with that.
Well, I'll
Deal
say
with
to you,
what? What are you
Albaruni,
on about, Darwin?
Oh, don't. Oh, he's taking the bait.
I'm not going to
Brilliant,
talk to
brilliant.
you, John, because you can't even handle that. You just
love
get
it.
really, really fucking triggered.
That you needed to be so much more subtle with that one, Arwin.
Yeah. That was a good one, though.
Yeah, just keep ignoring me.
I will do then. I'll just
spin it up.
Nathan's point if I can.
It only has to be optically flat.
Hold on, let's just spin
Optical
Arwin's point.
measuring instrument, optically flat, no
Do you
presuppositions.
think that's an
required.
argument by chance?
Yes, yes, I
No.
do.
Really?
So do other ballers. And if
He
you
knows it's
don't,
not an
they
argument.
will deal
No,
with it. They
this
will think that.
Right. The question was, do you think that's an argument, as opposed to, do you think this is filler and padding and chaff by anti-flat earthers? Answer yes to that question. Is this an argument? No, it's not, Arwin.
It works. It works just as well as Newtonian mechanics works for its purposes. And that's why they still teach it in school.
The laws of motion of Newton were not right.
Yeah. That's Richard Feynman. That's one of their gods. He told them. They just not listening. Oh, we're laughing all the way to the bank with that. And everything else. We don't even need that anymore. Show a curved adjacent whilst obtaining an elevation angle, baltards, or your fairy tale's dead. You don't even, you shouldn't even
But you
be here
can't
unless
show
you're
curved adjacent because it doesn't look like that. It looks
Why is he
flat.
over talking me?
Because you're just repeating yourself anyway.
yeah, right. Yeah, when you've got a winning argument, repeating yourself at nausea is perfectly satisfactory for me.
Yeah,
Repeating the
especially
same
when somebody
claim.
actually attempts a rebuttal and you just ignore it.
Optical is not a rebuttal.
Isn't it? So what's your counter argument to it then?
That it's geometric, that we're talking about the geometry.
No, it's not geometric. You're using an optical instrument. It's optical.
No, look, we're talking about geometry and the ballers.
Look. Yeah,
Yeah,
it
that's
is
a
an optical instrument.
chant
You
through me.
can't deny that.
Yeah.
Not chanting.
Yeah, I breathe too. But
Any
what, to stay alive, I breathe. To see, I look. Yeah, great argument.
Yeah, that's right. So you're using an optical instrument And that
My
optical
eyes?
instrument only functions if what you're
My eyes?
looking at is flat. What you're looking
My
at,
eyes?
right?
Yeah, I'm using my eyes. Yes.
Yeah, that's right. And things look flat. That's right. Because you're using an optical
Oh.
instrument.
It looks like, wow, what an argument.
Yeah, it is an argument. It is an argument.
My rebuttal, the rebuttal to water boiling at 100 degrees Celsius is that you're using an optical instrument.
Yeah,
Good.
but that's a complete
argument.
straightforward straw man, and you know it.
Yeah.
You're just not ready to even
Are you
consider
actually
that I
serious?
might have a technical argument, so
no, I
you're
don't
just
need-
going to
I don't
ridicule
need
it because that's
nonsensical
what you
bullshit
do
from flat
because you have
earthers.
no
Are you actually
tolerance
serious
for
with this
subtlety.
argument?
QE.
Let me just answer
take
QE. Just let's not hate open-ended questions that don't get answered. Is he serious? Yes and no. As Baldwin, yes. In reality, no.
Oh, okay.
So I'll take Arwin's.
Yeah, that's serious enough.
A little less of the Baldwin and a little bit more of the Adam. Thank you.
I'm being muted.
You're not shutting up. I know that.
I know. It's just chanting and... Go ahead, Adam.
So I want to take that disclaimer Baldwin threw in at the start there, which was it only works if the surface is flat. So I'll agree with you on that disclaimer before you moved on from that.
No, you took out a word. Optically flat. It has to look flat. Because you're using an optical instrument that uses vision as a medium for the geometry. So if it's going to be vision medium based, then you're going to be subjected to weird visual deviations that are natural and inherent to the world.
So what's the precursor for things to look flat?
Terrestrial refraction.
Can you demonstrate that?
No.
And then?
Yeah, but you can demonstrate it because everything is
Oh,
bent.
what the hell? You're going to really piss me off. Can you demonstrate it? No. Long pause. But you can demonstrate it, is the next thing you say.
No, that's not what I said. I said you can demonstrate it because everything is bent, because that's just the nature of optics.
Ugh. Are we done here?
Yeah.
Are we
Annoying,
done?
isn't it?
Are we done?
Not really, no. It just sounds circular from your point now.
Yeah, so in summary, when doing this geometry, regardless of the optical requirements, which will be corrected to make it pure geometry, you can't do that with a bent adjacent. You can't do that with a curved surface, and you certainly can't do it if you've got terrestrial refraction.
No, you can, because terrestrial refraction makes it perfectly flat for the purposes of visual geometry. And then it works, because that's all you need. Right? It doesn't have to
Terrestrial
actually
refraction.
be in a literal place where you
Hold
see
on.
it. It just has to work
You
out.
said terrestrial refraction. Go ahead and define that.
The bending of light around the curve of Earth at a steady 6/7 R rate.
7/6.
Nope, that's not terrestrial
7/7.
refraction.
You know
I
what
need
I mean.
citation, by the way.
Well, sorry, you keep over talking me, so
I need citation
hear
for
it?
terrestrial refraction that came out of your blowhole. So go get it.
Sorry,
I
Paul.
need you to
No. That's unreasonable.
What
Hold on.
fucking
Hold on. Everyone, hold on.
This kind of
It's not
nonsense.
reasonable to get Baldwin to go and get a citation. That's not in his. That's not in his prerequisite of things that he does as this character. That's not something he does.
It doesn't exist
He
already.
doesn't do that.
No.
I don't need to get a citation.
There you go.
know
There
what
you go.
terrestrial refraction
See?
is.
He doesn't need to.
You know
QE.
what it is. Why do
Hold
I
on.
need to get the citation?
Look, I
You know
realise,
exactly what-
Arwin, I'm backing you up. It's like when I back up a baller and they don't get that I'm agreeing with them. Look, it is perfectly reasonable / totally unreasonable to say he doesn't need a citation, QE. That's the standard on their side.
Do you want me to
Can I
go
ask,
get it?
Can I ask him a question?
No, we were in the middle of it, bloody hell. No, just
You
wait.
wanted
That's
this
what I'm
to
asking.
go-
Oh, you've set Arwin off like he's a baller. Right,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, because you need
nearly
to
there.
attack
Nearly,
what I do.
Nearly,
It's so
nearly,
important.
Nearly. Yes, QE. The solution to this problem, unless you want it to drag out for another 10 minutes, is if you want a citation for something he won't cite and says is unreasonable for him to cite the thing he's talking about, Yeah, then you'll have to do it yourself. That's right. That's the only solution, unless we want to stay here forever.
Okay.
That's right. Just Google
I got it.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Did you hear what he said?
No.
He said, just Google it.
Just
Brilliant. Arwen's character is absolutely spot on to type, by the way. If you're an actor, study the character, study the personality of an anti-flat earther, and tell me Baldwin hasn't got it 100% perfect in almost every respect. He has.
All right, all fun and games. So, Terrestrial Refraction by Andrew Thomas Young. The atmosphere is also curved as it follows the shape of the Earth, and the calculations below will adopt the rough value of 6,400 kilometers as the radius of curvature to make the calculation simple. So, therefore, two necessary conditions must exist for terrestrial refraction to exist. The atmosphere paradox has to be curved. Can you show where gas is curved?
You, Arwen. Can you show where gas is curved?
Gas is curved.
Yeah, that's what the citation says. Hold on. That output inflection means you've got to repeat it. He wasn't listening.
I'm sorry, I'm being distracted by a cat here that's
Yeah.
walking around.
The phone's not working. You've had a power cut. The cat's distracting you. Thank you, Arwen. No further interjection required. Can you repeat it?
I'll show you on the webcam. It's really true.
See,
Look.
this is where I can't take control. 'Cause I can't-
Optically,
The
right?
problem is,
See?
right, for the audience's benefit, because he isn't going to show up, I have literally got to close the line. He cannot be forced to listen, right? I don't need to see the cat. He can't be forced to listen. So, irrespective, I was right the first time. Damn it. Irrespective, we can tell him, and the audience can listen. Arwen will choose not to because that's the character. They won't listen to this. But go ahead again, QE. I doubt I can force him to listen to you.
Yeah, Andrew Thomas Young saying that it was state. Yeah. I thought he said, go ahead, QE.
I did.
Andrew Thomas Young speaking to terrestrial refraction. The atmosphere is also curved as it follows the shape of the Earth, and the calculation below will adopt a rough value of 6,400 kilometers as the radius of curvature to make the calculation simple. So let me be concise. Two necessary conditions must exist for that fairy tale terrestrial refraction to exist. You must show where gas is curved, and you must show the radius of the Earth and how you got it. Floor is yours.
Go ahead, Arwen. Which one do
Okay,
you want?
well, there is a way to show spherical shaped air, but you're gonna have to use electrostatics for that, right?
Hold on. Has Baller become... I don't know what to label the electrostatic incoherent dielectric accelerator for people that are out there. What do we even label them?
Penguin.
Penguins?
No. This is called dropping a bomb, so you start fighting inward. So don't bother me with this.
Oh, Ken wins.
Yeah.
No, don't you freaking dare. No Ken win. No. I don't.
What you say no makes me want it even more. Oh, definitely a Ken win. Oh, so we've got a Ken win on our hands, have we, Mr. Incoherent Dielectric Accelerative Force Down, Go Boom Boom?
No, it's not my theory. That's what you flat earthers are constantly just going on about.
Look, what we are going to do is we're going to take one individual personality, that would be Ken Wheeler, and we're going to stereotype fallacy the shit out of our own flat earth side.
Right. It's just that I've heard flat earthers talk about that electrostatics makes sphere-shaped air possible. No, I actually haven't, but for this case, I'm going to say I have.
Okay, go ahead. Show it.
Show sphere-shaped air with
Air
incoherent...
is invisible, QE.
Your claim
You
is...
can't show it.
He's just exclaimed under his breath, not under his breath. It's a total lie, he's made it up. But so incoherent dielectric acceleration making sphere-shaped air. Go.
Right. Well, there's a slight downward bias because of the electrics, and yeah, electrostatics have been shown to push air away at a constant rate. Apparently.
So show it. Okay. So show it.
I call all in.
Somebody's finger. Somebody's
all
finger
in.
blew out a candle. I heard.
Description
right?
time over. Showing time now. Let's show it. It has been shown. So show it.
Okay, I'll come back to you about that after the show is over.
Okay. You offer a coffee or a smoke?
No, I'm just making up an excuse so I don't have to do it.
Yeah, but that's to type would be so far Harp and whoever the guy was yesterday.
Jen win now. Jen
wins.
doubles back Saki.
Thing cleanser.
Synclenser, right, Synclenser. They both did the same thing when he got to this point, Arwin, which is the same as you're doing. Right, I'm going to go.
Well, they were acting like total ballers, so yeah.
Don't you need a coffee or a fag, Arwin, or something right now?
Well, I do have like a smoke right in front of me, so I was about to go there, but I have to defend the integrity of the argument.
Right, so you don't even
I'm
need
sorry,
to bum
did you say,
fag.
did you ask him if he needed a fag?
He doesn't even need to bum a fag. He's got one right in front of him, he said.
That's gross. I'm talking about something you smoke.
So was I.
So was I.
Okay.
Sorry, we're all talking about the same thing.
This is
can I-
crazy British.
Look, this chaff and redirect. Look, either when it
Wait,
gets
why
to
are they
this
called
point,
fags, though? Why do you
stop,
call them
everyone
fags?
stop. I love it. Total chaos starts. Chaff and redirect, successful. No, your claim, sphere-shaped air. Your response to being asked to show it was it's been shown by incoherent dielectric accelerative Kenwinds. So show it.
That's going to take a lot of time. You know, I have to have some electrical equipment. It's not going to happen. I can't demonstrate it. I'll have to look up videos out there. But you're probably just going to reject them anyway because it's kind of pointless. Air is invisible. So it's like a trick question. Show air. It's invisible. I can't show air. It's invisible. It's a trick question.
Why can't you show it from the smoke of your fag?
Right, so you can't show it's sphere-shaped then?
Oh, I can absolutely show a sphere-shaped smoke cloud. Sure.
Smoke isn't gas for a start. Oh, God,
Hey,
where's
I'm going
Morgall?
by what
That
Tenth Man
reminds
said,
me.
right? It's a trick question. Air is invisible. You can't show spherical air because air is invisible. It's a trick.
Very. So at the end, concede finally. I can't show sphere-shaped air. Right, we heard it. I know someone's going to chant through the top of the summary of what Arwin's just said. So you can't show that which you have claimed. You've just declared that.
No, it's a trick question from your side because air is invisible. You can't show it.
Yeah, you can.
No, it's invisible. You don't see air.
Yeah, so hold on, 10th, stop! Bloody hellfire, you're making it harder. Yeah, so you can't show it as your current declaration. Don't try and double speak your way around what you've just stated. So you can't prove your claim because your claim is that it takes the shape of a sphere. Now you're saying, I can't show it, it's invisible. So you can't show it by your own standards in this regard. Therefore, your claim fails on its arse by your own declarations. End of argument.
No, the math still works.
Who cares? You're being asked to show it.
But that's a trick question. That's
No,
like,
it's
hey,
not.
can you show me a unicorn?
No,
Yeah,
I
but-
don't. If I claim they were real and you challenged me to show them, and I said I'm going to need some electrical equipment, that would be unreasonable. However, you're never going to show air in sphere shapes arbitrarily because they don't take sphere shapes. Air takes the shape of its containment.
Right. And the container is Earth and gravity, whatever it is.
Oh my God. Gravity is not a force. It's certainly not a container. It's not causing air to be sphere shaped either.
Well,
Can I ask a question on the sextant?
I heard.
Yes,
arguments
definitely.
to the
Whoever that
contrary,
was.
so-
Go ahead, whoever that was. Save me. Save me.
Yeah, yes.
Hi there.
Quickly, strawman
Hi
your way
there,
out of
yeah,
the argument.
1 second,
Hello?
Darwin. IDEC. Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm fairly new back into the flat Earth scene. I've been out of it for a while, so I'm just catching up on a few things. I just had a question on the sextant, or a couple of questions, which I'm unsure of. If you could help me out. First of all, once you've took the sighting of the luminary and you brought it down to the horizon for its GP location, at that point, is there a distance then back to the observer? Yes or no?
You don't take it from the luminary for its GP position. You take it to get an angle. It's an angle measuring device. Then you go through the books and figure out where the zenith position of that luminary is over the Earth. And so you convert that angle, and then you get the co-altitude, and that gives you the zenith distance And that is what gives you the circle of equal altitude to put on your Mercator map.
So the point where the observer is between the observer's position and the GP, that distance is not known on the first shooting.
Correct.
That's acquired from the co-angle.
Okay,
let him go. Let him go. He's walking right into the trap. Go ahead, continue.
No, I'm just trying to learn, guys. That's all it is. So, because I didn't know if you had to take a few readings or one. My second question was, I was listening to a show. I think it was yesterday. It was to do with the GP and the apparent height. I think Brian was saying you can't get the height of the sun and things like that. And I think what we determined, I might be wrong here. I think what was determined was we could acquire the height of the luminary at that given time, but I wasn't sure if I got that right or wrong.
It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant to the point.
The way in which the almanacs work and the way in which you're measuring with trigonometry, it would be nice if you could know that height. It would make things a lot simpler, but that's not how it works. It's an apparent height.
No, yeah, it doesn't matter anyway, because we're navigating. So we're not trying to find the height of the luminary. So it's a red herring fallacy with the sextant. Continue.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's just that it was brought up. I'd not heard it mentioned beforehand, and I just thought, oh, that would be interesting if we are saying we can determine the height. Maybe I was wondering if you could take a fixed shot of a lighthouse, say at one angle, and determine its height, and if you'd get the same height at a different angle.
That's terrestrial navigation, and their heights do come into play because it's not an apparent height of the lighthouse. It has a real height to it. So because you'd know that height when you're doing terrestrial navigation, you can use that knowledge and then incorporate that into your trigonometry. But that's for terrestrial. So with landmarks, lighthouses, etc., prominences, etc. So you can use those on your maps if their details are known. But that's different to celestial.
That's great. Thanks, guys. It's just I've been talking to a few people and getting into a few discussions with some globers, and I just want to try and update myself and get back onto speed. So I'll just keep reading.
No, it's good. It's good. It's good because you can tell by the type of questions that you're asking, the type of logic that you're applying when you're asking the questions that you're asking. It's good. I like your thought processes. It's good. But the most interesting to me was when you asked about the height, and it got a lot of people off mute. Because as correctly identified by QE, it is irrelevant, because that's not what we're doing. When you're triangulating your position, you're not trying to establish the height of the celestial object. However, you are forming a triangle with it. So it would be, and is for certain globe claims, extrapolated out to give you height. Now for them, they insert R after the fact. But you are still forming a triangle. So there is a little bit of ambiguity. Now you don't know the actual height of the star to get that particular measurement. And it isn't what you're utilising. So ultimately it's irrelevant, but it's ultimately always going to be slightly awkward in terms of a discussion point for a flat earther, because you could, at a given point, say, well, if I know the zenith and I've got the angle and I now know the distance, if you've verified it, surely that gives me the height of the star. Well, no, because the tool that you've used to measure isn't measuring its height, it's measuring its angle in the sky in the relation to its zenith position on the ground, as opposed to the triangulation being capable of deriving its height. So while it works, and you are drawing out a triangle to it, you're not using that triangle to give you its height. Does that make sense?
We in a way,
yeah, that makes perfect sense, Nathan. Yeah, it threw me a little bit when I heard it, and I was just unsure. So I've been wanting to ask you guys about it and just get some clarity on the subject. So thank you.
No worries. I mean, I'll let Adam go in a second, but it was something that I was slightly concerned about, because maybe I'm naive in terms of the intelligence level of the people arguing this stuff, assumed that many flat earthers would look at it and go, ooh, I can use that to make my star distance claim, because I've got stars at 4,000 Well, that didn't happen. It was a concern I had that never manifested. And then suddenly we were discussing it without any issue surrounding it. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. It's not an issue, it's a non-issue, because it's not relevant to the subject of triangulation in terms of navigation. Do you see what I mean? Go ahead, Adam, I'm sorry.
Just an add there, just to add a bit of clarity. So the reason you don't need it, or you can't acquire it, and therefore it's not needed, is the way in which the calculation works is you acquire your angles, and you go up into the heavens across, and you use, at this point, you don't need to calculate, you just use the laws of geometry to know that star is in the same position for your triangle in the air as your triangle on the ground. And because you've got the other ones, you don't actually need to define that in physicality. You can just use the laws of geometry to bring your calculation down to the earth. And that's when you come back from your GP that you've calculated with your straight adjacent line. And it's that straight adjacent line that's in that first diagram with the sextant that draws your circle of equal altitude for you. That straight, flat adjacent draws that circle for you that you've located and calculated its length and position through the stars in the almanac.
And the stars in the, and this is go ahead, Wanda. Sorry.
That line back from the GP to the observer. Then, what's being used on the sextant to confirm the observer's position is the mirror for that. So we've got the baseline, haven't we, from the GP? We brought the sun down to the horizon. There's the GP at that time, and then we've got a line back then on the horizon to the observer. What on the sextant is giving the observer's position is I was getting the we must have a GP of the observer, do we?
No, that's what you're trying to achieve. No, that's what you're doing by way of triangulation. Now, often you can achieve that with just two positions, but that's the end result that you're trying to figure out, right? Where you are.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I'm just getting a little bit confused, I think. Sorry.
That's fine. There is a direct relation to the GP of the star versus where it says it will be at a given time. Hence, you note your time when you take the measurement. But that position does have a physical relationship. I can't remember who it is I'm contradicting now, so feel free to correct me if you think I'm wrong. But in terms of, this is where we expand into unknown territory. There is what I'm going to call a physical relationship between the star's location and its GP at a given time. In other words, if you were standing coincidentally at the GP of that star, if it was on land, at the time that somebody at sea was triangulating with that star, then it is literally at your zenith. You know, you are directly below that star. So in that respect, at that time only, you've got a relationship to the position in your physical terms to the star above you, directly above your position. But that's only true at that moment in time. Yeah. And beyond that, it stops being true for that particular position. So when you know that, you then have a direct relationship between the plotting of the map and the relationship between the GP at a particular time. So knowing the mechanics of the stars in intricate detail has led people to be able to transpose those relationships onto the maps so that they work for things like this. Well, like I said, this is where we get into unknown territory because we don't know how those transpositions have taken place. We got an idea of the bullshit they tell us. Whoever it was that was trying to get a word in while I'm babbling, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, like with rainbows, you know, you could use triangulation on a rainbow. Does that mean you're actually getting the height of the rainbow?
No, but it doesn't have any use, and it doesn't have any cyclical nature, and it doesn't have a GP that's directly capable of being viewed as a GP from out at sea as being over a position at land and simultaneously looked up at by me, directly above me at my zenith. Well, those two things aren't true for rainbows, but in principles of can you actually calculate the distance to a not actual position? Well, no, you can't, and the same is true for rainbows as it is for stars, but they do have certain mechanics that we are definitely taking advantage of. It's just figuring out the link between that and the maps below when we know the maps are distorted and we know that our perception of the heavens is distorted. Well, somehow they've back-engineered it in such a fashion that it does seem to work. Well, I would love to know how that actually occurs. Adam, how are you getting on with that? You done it yet? Adam's legged it for my jape. That or I'm having technical issues because loads of people have been dropping in and out of this hangout the entire show. Breaker.
I can hear you, Nathan. I don't know. Yeah, but thanks anyway, guys. I'll continue listening and trying to catch up with things. As I say, I got into flat Earth about 5-6 years ago, and it knocked me sideways really with friends and family. I did have a social media page at the time, and I've done all the battling and discussions with ballers, and it drained the hell out of me. And I just stepped out of it, and I've not done anything for a couple of years, and I've just gradually come back into it. I fell upon you guys with the Black Swan, which wasn't going when I was sort of getting into it, and the Sextant, and I think it's really progressed, and it's looking good.
So would you say, unlike one of my panel members, that would be Neil, not to mention any names, you're now basically cool with it, whereas when you first came across it, you actually found it incredibly stressful? Whereas now you're kind of at one with it?
I am cool with it. Come on, he's saying he was getting stressed out through the arguments. Not me.
I had that many fallouts with my wife and family because I was trying to force it on people. I couldn't understand why. I wanted people to see it how I seen it. Look, the Earth is flat. It's not round. You've been lied to all your life at school. And it freaked me out. And it started freaking me out. And I felt I couldn't talk to anybody. I went into myself. I got depression, anxiety, and I had to come away from it for a while.
Isolation, yeah, can do that.
That's a setup, Nathan. You brought that guy in to say that shit. Stop.
No, other way around. I brought you in to rumpus him just for fun.
It's true, though. It happens. You know, it happened to me many times. I was awakened to flat Earth several times throughout my life, but because of the complete inability to share it with anybody without them immediately resorting to some kind of peer pressure-based demotivation, that just makes you stop doing it or you'll get depressed. So that's actually a real thing.
Sound like Zinda. Come on, stop.
Yeah, but it's true. It's not true now because now there's a flat Earth movement online and all that. That's different. But way back, like 30 years ago, that wasn't there, right? So you had to deal with isolation then if you were going to go open with it.
Or just not care.
Or that, yeah.
Indifference to it would be your shield. You know, indifference to it.
I think my problem was. Oh, sorry, I'm echoing there. I think my problem was when I found flat Earth. I think I've always researched things and looked into things. I think at the time I was looking at the Anunnaki, and I was talking to someone about this Anunnaki, and I'm not saying the Anunnaki. I was just looking into it and seeing what was said about it. Someone just dropped the flat Earth on me. Said, "Oh, you want to see these people who are believing in flat Earth?" And I just laughed it off. And then about 3 weeks later, I thought about it, and I thought, you know what? The Earth is flat. You can tell it's flat. You just look in the heavens, the stars, the horizon, and at that moment, I knew. I didn't have any scientific knowledge or evidence, but I knew at that moment the Earth was flat. And I think since then, as I've tried to talk to people about it, I've had difficulty because I've not had the knowledge or the scientific method and like you guys go about to get my point across to anybody. So it always ended up in an argument and shouting, and I can't get my point across properly. It's just something I believe, and that's how it always ended up.
Right, it becomes a peer pressure struggle.
Exactly.
And then
so,
you lose.
Exactly. So in many ways, it's because you haven't got enough to actually convince yourself. Because if you did have all of those ducks in a row, that's when you've got all those things in a row, you're kind of like, you become indifferent to it because you're no longer trying to prove it to yourself. Now, as much as you're like, no, at that point I knew it was flat, you didn't, because you couldn't express it in a way that would convince others. In other words, you hadn't got enough in your arsenal to convince yourself either, which is stressful. Now, because at some level you recognize it and you know it. Now, I would say that's the obvious and observable bit in my declaration about the nature of the reality that we're actually faced with. Well, knowing it in that regard isn't good enough. Cognitively, especially if you're a reasonable amount of intelligence, somewhere in the back of your mind, you know you haven't got enough evidence yet. And that's stressful. Because when you're putting across what you have accurately, I'm so glad you used the word, described it as your belief, you're just expressing your belief to them. Because you've not got any empiricism behind your statements. You've not got the declarations of no science and understanding how to make that claim have a bit of authority. So once you've got all those things in your arsenal, suddenly proving it to Joe Coffey on the street when they argue the toss with you, you kind of don't care because you know, to the point where you're like, well, whatever, yeah, well, get on with your life as a globe normie then. I don't care. It literally doesn't affect me. But the stress that you've induced in them, you know, relieving it isn't going to help you either. So because you're not suddenly feeling the adverse effects of the I don't really know how to prove that it's flat to you bit of the flat earth realization, once that's out of the way, it's kind of, you become like much more Fonz like.
It's always,
yeah, I totally agree.
In a good way though. There is this point where frankly the peer pressure, you don't care anymore. You as you've ascertained, you've convinced yourself, you've given yourself that knowledge that it's flat. And there is points, I think, on the journey where you are, oh my God, what if I am wrong? And you go along like, but there does come a point, and that's when, see, I'll have, if I have the pharmacists in, you know, peers or directors, if I have the police in, I'll pimp flat earth, and there's no peer pressure to me. I don't really care whether they think I'm right or wrong. Do you know what I mean? Or laugh or think whatever of me. I'm happy to share that information with them and confident in it. And as you say, no peer pressure to be asked.
Right, but that's because you got the knowledge to cover any situation that you know would be coming in response, right?
Yeah. What's the guy in
20 years ago, I didn't have that. I didn't know how to deal with it. All that peer pressure was new back then.
I'm sorry, what's the gent in Discord called? Just
Sorry, do you mean me? One Deck?
Yeah, One Deck. Hi, mate. Yeah. Oh, you raise good points, and maybe not to that extreme, but you could. I think back in the day, there was lots of people quit through family stress and all these things, and those family stressors. You want everybody to see your viewpoint. You're too eager to preach early on when you discover this. But like you say, I think fundamentally, you don't have the arguments to have sold it to yourself fully yet. So respect for stepping out. I think it's a reasonable thing to do, and just it's a funny forum where you can get lost, can't you, in a way. So I think it's interesting, and thanks for sharing your journey there, because I don't think it's too dissimilar. I think lots of people have encountered this and put it on the back burner in there. You say 3 weeks. Mine was a bit quicker, but it's good to know that after a few years, even you put it back in there and walk away from it, but it's still niggles, I'm assuming. That, yeah?
Yeah, I've still got niggles going. I mean, I've got my close friends and family. They all know I'm a flat earther. It gets brought up now and again. Nothing serious, but the conversations come up, and I can't hold back or lie on my feelings or what I need to say about why I know it's a flat earth. And it's more accepted now, but I still always feel I've got to just keep it a little bit on the quiet because it stirs people up a little bit. So, and I always say to people, I feel like I've woke up to flat earth, but in my journey, I feel sad sometimes when I say this. People say, the truth, is it the truth wakes you up? The truth will set you free, I think the term is. But I've never felt like that since I've found out the truth. It's always been a bit of a struggle for me for some reason.
That's the pressure from the unwilling people you're feeling. By the way, guys, remember that time when I, as Baldwin, argued Occam's razor and you thought it was hilarious? Well, that actually happened to me like 25 years ago. It was told to me like that. Like, yeah, you're the only one that thinks this. Everybody else thinks it's a globe. And I didn't know what to do with that. I was like, okay, maybe I am crazy then. Right?
I'd like to comment on what he said. The truth did set you free.
Yeah, freedom's a concept. Anyway, how did you find your way to here?
As I say, I give it a break for a couple of years, but I've never not give it I've always had me ear on it and had a look at things and been involved. I've had people on Instagram who are flat earth friends on Instagram, so I see the posts coming up and I just keep a little eye on it. And then I do watch YouTube quite a bit. I follow Santos Bonacci on his flat earth bits and pieces, and I think it just pops up on YouTube. You guys were probably going when I was into it a few years ago, but I never came across you, and I just started listening to the Nathan show, and I thought, oh, there's some new stuff going on here, the Black Swan and the Sextant and other bits and pieces, and I thought, whoa, this is good. We've progressed. Things have moved forward, and then from there, I think Mitchell's channel popped up, and so I've just been listening in the background for the last 4 weeks, really.
So was it actually recommended? So obviously you weren't a subscriber here, but now you're in the Discord server, which means you've full on watched a few shows and made your way to the Discord server. But it offered it up to you as a viewer, YouTube, that is.
I didn't search Nathan Oakley's name or Mitchell from Australia's name. I don't know if it's an algorithm that
Yeah, that's why I'm asking. Yeah, absolutely, it's an algorithm. That's why I'm asking.
Well, yeah, that would be it then. Yeah, Nathan.
Wow, that's the first account in about 3 years. First time in 3 years someone's told me that, one deck.
That's a message from above that.
Well,
Really?
I
get
bloody
people
hell,
in my
Arwin.
chat
Bloody hell.
regularly.
Yeah, so I pay close attention and ask people that question. Well, how did you find me? What actually brought you here? Oh, well, I got a recommendation. Someone on Facebook sent me a link. Oh, I got an email. Oh, someone on Skype sent me a link to the video. So hence I constantly ask people on the show to share the show because that's the only reason. Now, for you to come along and say, I got delivered your video where I was not a subscriber and I'm now a watcher/subscriber, that hasn't happened for such a long period of time. And in the last couple of weeks, how long is it since you've been watching the show? In recent times, that is.
I'd say 2 months tops.
Yeah, within the time frame that I've been looking at this stuff seeming to change. Was it Adam? Was it Adam or was it... might have been Anthony. I discussed this on and off with all the panel members occasionally. I'm like, oh, this has happened with my statistics. I wonder if that's because of X, Y, and Z. But, part of that is how do people get the exposure of the videos in the first place? How do they find their way to me? And, that's good news. Good news to have you telling me because you're representative of a lot more people. That's all. Anyway, Arwin, sorry to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say that I'm surprised that you say that because over the years I've had, well, it's not like a daily thing. It's not a lot, but at least like 2 hands full of people that would say like, yeah, you just popped up in my YouTube recommendation list, right? And then they would sometimes be familiar with flat earth and sometimes completely unfamiliar. So YouTube has sent people my way that way, like even 4 years ago. But it wouldn't be like a regular thing, like not a lot. But sometimes, yeah, every now and then YouTube sends somebody my way. It does happen. And I think it probably does happen with you too, but they didn't tell you.
Yeah, so what I'm saying though, Arwin, is that is how growth works on YouTube. Typically speaking, obviously you want to try and assist that as much as possible by sharing your show and encouraging your audience to do so. But that is the natural progression within YouTube. So for you to say, oh no, occasionally someone will just happen to find my video, given that they've been looking for that subject specifically and have probably searched for it. They happen to find my video. Yeah, that's how it should be. But for us, it isn't that way, is it? But on a rare occasion, you to have somebody come across you in that way, that's like, yeah, don't get me wrong, I still get to see the, 4.2% impressions rate that I get, which is what we're talking about. I know the stats. Yeah, there's a small, tiny little handful of people that I know are coming to my videos because they've seen a video and then clicked on it. But what I can't say is, were you subscribed when you saw that video? Because that's how I get offered that chunk of statistics. I can only ask. If someone says, no, I wasn't subscribed, I just saw your video while watching something else, clicked on it, then subscribed. to me, that's such a rare thing that very, very rarely will. And same for you, it seems. You're like, no, on a very rare occasion, someone will do that. And you're like, okay, well, for most YouTubers, their growth is basically dependent on that happening. That's how their growth occurs. Just for us, it's a much, much harder and more arduous struggle. We have to, beg for people to smash the share button all day long. Because if they don't, we don't get anybody coming as new. Or very, very small amounts versus the people who just, by putting out the churn that we do daily, would just accrue a decent audience just by doing that. I've seen it happen time and time again with people who've got complete garbage as streams, covering complete crap subjects with terrible sound and vision. And they just naturally grow because they're putting out the material. I've seen enormous YouTubers that have got certain aspects of their material and production that are just truly horrendous. But because they're doing it and churning like we do, they have that natural growth. We just don't typically see that at all. It's nice to hear it's some for you and very, very, very rare for me.
Right, you're talking about the wildfire spreading, right? Oh, it's all the rage. Everybody's suddenly tapping into it. That doesn't happen. When something like really is a super attention drawer, that's when YouTube's often... just pulls the brake all of a sudden on flat earthers, and they don't do it with others. Like if somebody else goes all wildfire and super popular, they grow, and they grow very quickly. With flat earthers, they put the brakes on it from the beginning.
Well, they declared it in Congress, right? What are you going to do about it? And then the tramp stamp followed, and the fringe content rules, which we're under, applied. In terms of recommendation, that's extremely limited. Now, that's not to say non-existent, because obviously we're discussing the examples that we've got, but extremely limited is exactly that. We have got the kibosh on us, and there's no two ways about that. They make it overt and public about how they've put the kibosh and what they're going to do to put the kibosh on, and you can see it below every single video. Anyway, with that, I'm going to say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. Of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Programming streams. Hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, hit the PayPal link, joining as a member and all that good stuff. Also below this video you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy, and this is of particular note if you drive an electric vehicle. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.